What you think about when you're born into a fire? Let them burn it out. Sell them to the richest buyer. They wanna let the world decay. They tell us lies and fade away, fade away. We feel betrayed. We were raised to lose the race. Wake at the back of the pack, kill it anyway.
What's up, Internet? I'm Aries Van Dam, the shaman of logic. And this is my co-host, Ozzy. Wake up, buddy. There we go. Isn't he beautiful? He's so cute. All right, back to me. So, today's video is going to be Andrew Wilson versus Dinesh D'Souza. Let me turn it on. I had to wait a little while on this one just to make sure I could do it and everything for copyright reasons. But I'm gonna speed it up a little bit just to make sure, just because I'm not positive about all this stuff. So, but I've been so excited to see that Andrew has finally given up on defending Trump. Yes, it is so awesome. He's my favorite commentator that holds women accountable. He's like one of my favorites. So it is so awesome to see him back on the side of logic. Oh, I love it. Still got a little work to do with the conspiracy theories. He's still a little boomery there, but we'll get there. We'll get there. I'm like 90%, 85 to 90% with him now, like on his views. So we're good. We're good. I'm not that close with anyone else. So, and I'm sorry for the late starts. You're gonna have to bear with me a little bit. I've been working out later and I can't go to sleep. I was up till 4:30 this morning, so it's just been difficult to go to sleep. I'm gonna have to stop working out so late. So just trying to budget this and all. Let's get into the debate. There we go, finally.
Jews have magic Jew blood, yes or no?
Have what?
Magic
Yes.
Jew blood, so they're preferred by God?
How much should Taiwan pay us for preventing an invasion by China?
They should pay for whatever the naval cost is of doing that.
Right. This is why you're not president, because do you agree that the people who live in Israel are
I thought it was because he didn't run.
Jews?
Yes, mystery
Okay.
solved.
Okay. And all right. I'm
What?
saying that the secularism in Israel is a result of a rebellion against Judaism, not a manifestation of it.
It's the stupidest thing that I ever heard.
Israel was
Can it be a secular Jewish state, Dinesh?
Israel
Can
was
it be a secular Jewish state, Dinesh?
Israel.
Can it be a secular Jewish
Yes,
state?
it is.
Thank you.
Okay, but I'll refute it.
I can't wait.
Okay.
Okay, I think we've seen enough of that one. No, just kidding. We'll see the whole thing. We'll try it all.
With that, we're going to jump into the main event for the entire conference. Are Christians morally obligated to support the Jews and Israel? I am excited for this one. Introducing first, Dinesh D'Souza is a best-selling author, award-winning filmmaker, and veteran conservative intellectual who has shaped American political debate for decades. Please join me in welcoming Dinesh D'Souza.
That makes me an intellectual too.
And on our right, a man who needs no introduction, Andrew Wilson, host of The Crucible, is one of online debate's most experienced and formidable figures, known for his aggressive cross-examination and quick improvisation. Andrew Wilson. So And then, just so it's no surprise, what we're going to do is right after their opening statements, which will be at the podium for 5 minutes each, we are going to move the podium and then bring the tables closer together so that the speakers are closer together for that open dialogue session. With that, we're going to start the debate. Dinesh will be going first. I have the timer set for you, Dinesh, and I will start it on your first word. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you very much. Well, I feel like I'm going to be in the lion's den today. And there might be a few of you who support Israel, some of you on the fence. Most of you are probably going to be a little hostile. And so my presence here should be taken as well, I'll try to make it as painless as possible, but it's going to be a little bit of an intellectual suppository for you. I want to...
Doesn't even occur to him, hey, why would this be an uncomfortable crowd for me? Because I'm trying to sell you bullshit. I'm trying to sell you horse shit up here. That's why it's difficult.
Clarify some terms in the debate to make it clear what we're going to be debating about. And then I want to try to focus the argument in its most kind of primitive or fundamental way so we don't get drawn into sort of side issues. We're talking as Christians, so I'm assuming that the premise of the debate is that we are Christians, we're Catholics, we're Protestants, we're in the mainstream of the Christian tradition. My own work in apologetics has taken the C.S. Lewis kind of mere Christianity approach. I'll be using generally that in this debate. By way of background, I come from a very old Catholic family in India. It goes back about 400 years. My grandfather's brother was the Cardinal of Pakistan. So I'm deeply rooted in the Catholic tradition, the Catholic intellectual tradition. I've studied it, I've written a lot about it, and I've debated it against generally leading atheists, people like Christopher Hitchens and others. Now, Israel is not my topic. And by that I mean in a career spanning 35 years, I haven't written about it, I've barely mentioned it. I'm not known as a Zionist. I don't identify with Zionism, which was a secular socialist movement of the 19th century. I have no particular stake in Israel as a country. I'm America first all the way. And so keep those things in mind as we have this debate. If you're looking for me to sort of channel Ben Shapiro or Mark Levin, that's really not going to be happening here. I'm not a professional Israel advocate in any sense of the term.
This is the third debate I've done that he was defending Israel. So I don't know how true that is, because he sure does take a lot of debates to lose on that side of the argument.
I discovered Israel really 2 or 3 years ago when I visited for the first time. And I found it interesting in two ways. The first one was simply that we live at a time when cities have become really homogenized. These days, you know, there's no point going to Zurich and Copenhagen. It's all kind of one thing. Israel's not like that. In Israel, you're very conscious that you're in the land of the Bible. That is a very important feeling for Christians. You get the sense that this is your spiritual homeland. And by spiritual homeland, what I mean is that our faith is not some kind of abstraction that is delivered in the sky. It could have been. God could have put the 10 Commandments, he could have put it on the moon. But he didn't do that. Our Bible, our history, our Christianity is historical. It's rooted in real people and real events and real places. It took place somewhere in the world, and that somewhere happens to be Israel. That's worth remembering and worth noting. I also discovered in the course of now 4 visits to Israel, the thing that really interests me, and that is biblical archaeology. And biblical archaeology has the definitive effect of authenticating and corroborating the people and events in the Bible. We can go into it a little bit later. I will give you the most shocking examples of this, but it is a massive refutation of the skepticism and atheism of the 19th century, which basically said that the Bible was written hundreds of years later and most of it was kind of made up. Biblical archaeology shows us that the Bible is talking about real people and true events. You can debate the miracles, you can debate the theology, but that these things are real, these people are real, the events are real, has been authentic.
Were real, not are real. When they're talking about Israel, they're talking about Israel at the time in the Bible. They don't just mean for fucking ever, Dinesh. And whoever names themselves that, whoever comes and steals land from those people and calls themselves that doesn't make that real, Dinesh.
Down to the most excruciating detail. That's very important because it also happens to establish the presence of the Jews in their ancestral homeland. And in a way, to me, the fundamental question that we're discussing today, when I say morally obligated, what I really mean is, what's the right thing to do? Now, saying what the right thing to do doesn't solve the problem of should we give money to Israel or how much money should we give to Israel? No. Supporting Israel here basically means having a certain recognition of a kind of spiritual and historical kinship or line of continuity established, by the way, in the Bible. And don't think of the Old Testament as Jewish. The New Testament is just as Jewish as the Old. Both are describing Jewish communities, and Christianity came right out of that. In fact, the first Christians were Jews. They were Jews who followed the Messiah. I think historically we could say with great accuracy they were the very first Judeo-Christians. The apostles were Judeo-Christians. Now,
you heard him. 2,000 years ago, some people were Jewish, so we got to keep paying Jewish people bills in Israel today. No, what the fuck does this even make sense?
To me, the core of this question is whose land is it?
30 seconds.
30 seconds? I was just getting warned. This is my introduction, guys. All right. Let me just put it this way. There are three ways to get a country. First, you were there first. That's the ancestral claim. Number two, you got the country by some kind of negotiation or treaty. Or number three, you got the land because you captured it. Every single country on the map in the world now has gotten its claim based on one of these three ways. The argument I'm going to make is that Israel succeeds on all three ways. It checks all the boxes. Even America doesn't. The American Indians were here first. We might have conquered them, taken the land from them, so we got it by conquest. They got it by original inhabitancy. And there's a little bit of an argument over here, but I'm going to argue that the Jews were there, it's their land. Number two, they got it by treaty. It was given to them by the United Nations. They accepted it. The Palestinians rejected it. And three, they got it by not just by conquest, they fought 3 defensive wars against massive coalitions of Islamic forces that are into essentially global colonization. The Muslims are the real colonizers. And so whichever box you choose, Israel succeeds. And therefore, supporting Israel isn't just sort of the biblical thing to do.
Hey, did Japan get their country the right way too? Do we have to pay their bills? What the fuck kind of argument is this? Why are we obligated to give them money and bombs to kill people with? Because they got their land appropriately, like you're supposed to. What fucking kind of argument is this? Yes, because they got their country in a way that we can consider acceptable. That means we have to pay them every fucking year? Why? Every country got their shit that exact same way. One of those 3 ways, correct? Do we have to pay every country for being like right in how they got their establishment? Is that the argument?
It's the right thing to do. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And that's an intellectual, right? I get called a retard, but he gets to be a fucking intellectual, and that was an argument. They got their country the right way, so we have to support them and give them money every year. Like, I make those dots connect, please, please.
And I've got the timer ready for you, Andrew, on your first word. Oh, that's right. If you're able to.
Got to set the mood. First of all, Big round of applause for Dinesh real quick. Great opening. But that's not going to save him. I want for everybody to remember that the topic of this debate is if Christians have a moral obligation to support Jews in Israel. He didn't give us one. It is obvious to me that since the answer is clearly no, that Dinesh likely gave no reason, which means I predicted he wouldn't give us one. I will begin by expressing to you, the audience, that when discussing normative claims, or in this case, moral claims, you need to demonstrate why the moral obligation is there. Dinesh's view comes down to a whole bunch of really stupid propositions that actually make no sense. Note, I'm not calling Dinesh stupid. He's far from it. But even intelligent people can believe stupid propositions and often do. Logical proposition 1, Christians need to support a Jewish state of Israel because their ethics and Christian ethics overlap. This is something which Dinesh has said multiple times. The reason this is a stupid proposition is because the modern state of Israel is a secular state. This state supports abortion, and most of the public supports it. They have pregnancy termination boards, which grant 99% of applications abortions up to 24 weeks and beyond. They support gay marriage, and while not marrying gays themselves, as there is no civil marriage authority, they recognize all out-of-country gay marriages as valid, and all gay cohabitation has identical social and financial rights. Let that sink in.
Thank you. I've been saying this. How are we the woke right for not supporting all this woke shit in Israel? Right? That was my whole point. Oh, God, I love this. This is the best debate ever.
They are extremely pro-transgender, and their public health care system provides generously for trans surgery and voice mod training. Sorry about that. 1 second here.
Your honeypot may have had a wiener. Be careful.
According to their own polling, the Israeli Institute for Gender and LGBTQ Studies has supported 75% or more for homosexual acceptance, advocacy, and gender care, which includes 90% from secular Jews and even over 50% from the religious Orthodox Jews. Now, I can keep going. Women in the military, IVF programs, national health care, prostitution, pornography. These are libtards, essentially, who live in Israel that Dinesh wants us to support. A whole nation of them. Christian ethics here in the USA determines that we resist these things in our own nations. Why would we support other nations which codify these things as law any more than we would Sharia law? I don't want millions upon millions or billions of my dollars to be used to support a system which allows for these forms of degeneracy when we are busy combating them in our own backyard. Why would Christians support that? Now, Dinesh can argue the USA is plagued with similar problems, and that's true, and Christians here oppose our...
Right, and where does all the brainwashing in that direction come from? Where does it come from, Dinesh? Where does it come from? We're almost there.
Our own governmental national apparatus and strongly attempt to legislate against these forms of policy. We do the opposite of funding it, except through force of tax. Proposition 2, Dinesh believes that the Christians have a stake in Israel because it's the holiest of holies, and the holiest Christian sites are there. I grant this is true, but that doesn't give us much reason to keep the population there Jewish. If Christians in the West truly want access to the holy sites, then why not just demand Israel, who is our protectorate, take a certain amount of Christians per year? I think 100,000 or more should do the trick. The USA has no cap on Jews immigrating here. Why not just demand they allow Christian immigration with no cap there, or we cut off all military funding and support, and that's that. Then we get the holy sites. He argues that Israelis guard these things better than Muslims. I can see that's true, but I'm certain millions of Christian immigrants could protect them just fine. Not sure why there needs to be a Jewish state to do this, or why we have a moral obligation to keep it Jewish at all. Proposition 3, Dinesh often cites the biblical principle of those who bless Israel will be blessed. That's Genesis 12:3. Does a modern state of Israel seem very blessed to you? If you took every Jew in Israel and put them in Germany in the year 2026, they would be safer than they are in Israel. How's that for irony? Is God blessing their abortions, their homosexuality, and prostitution advocacy, the rejection of the Messiah? Doesn't seem like it to me. If that's what a God-blessed nation looks like, then I would be very wary of the blessings of that God, because he sure seems like he isn't very fond of them at the moment. Proposition 4. Do Christians have an obligation to support religious Jews naming a Messiah, considering that that Messiah figure will certainly be false and antichrist? This is obviously no. Don't know about Dinesh over here, but the proposition of naming a false Messiah and Christians supporting that by funding the religious, more conservative section of Jewish population claiming its morals seems insane to me. Proposition 5. Are secular Jews blessed or non-religious Jews blessed by the same Genesis passage? In other words, if I bless atheist Jews and all their liberal policies, will I in turn be blessed with magic Jew blood? Do I need to fight and die on their behalf for this blessing? Is it just a mind state, like I just kind of cheer them on? Does it require action on my part? What are my actual obligations here as a Christian? What's the normative framework to receive said blessing from my support of atheist Jews? I say the opposite. As a Christian, it's my duty to resist and oppose the radical atheist and secular Jewish agenda of Israel. Until they conform to my ethical model, I would like and would do, in all cases, I would demand this of every nation, pull all financial and military support and deal with them only as a limited capacity as they could be dealt with. I am not in the business of funding abortion, homosexuality, prostitution, female empowerment. Christians must resist these propositions and demand if Israel wants our aid, they need to conform to the standards and normative ethics of the very Christians they endlessly demand help from. To clarify a few terms, when you're making a normative claim, Dinesh, when you're making a ought claim, you need to tell us why Christians ought to support this nation. So far, you have not done that.
Thank you very much.
You can drop the mic right there. That was beautiful. Music to my ears.
Thank you very much, gentlemen, for those openings. So for the open dialogue,
I thought that dude was Cool Vic for a while. That guy right there, I kind of thought it was him because you don't see Cool Vic out of his studio much, but it wasn't him.
I have the timer set. This will be 80 minutes, and we're going to move the speakers just a little closer. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Excellent work. And then, Sean, if you can give us a thumbs up on whether or not that's where we need them. Maybe if you could bring it just a little closer, maybe with the V shape, if you can just squeeze a little bit so it's a tighter V, a more acute angle. Thank you. There you go. Let's see, Sean, is that better? So you want them straight across?
They always got technical issues. Let me just go forward a little bit.
Okay. I'm not sure what that.
It's false.
That's false. Wholesale. Do you want me to go first, just to get us going?
It's your claim.
Okay. Would you agree that the New Testament not only follows the Old, but incorporates the Old? In other words, to put it differently, that Christianity is the only religion that takes the scriptures of another religion and incorporates it wholesale into its own Bible. True or false?
That's false.
That's false. So you would prefer to see the Old Testament removed from the Bible?
No. No, it's on I have a different worldview than you do. I see these things as a continuity, whereas you see them as a multitude.
Like every book is a continuity. Like, why would the Bible be any different?
Of covenants. Is that correct?
No, I didn't say that. I started out with the physical Bible. When I look at my Bible, it's about 800 pages long.
Okay.
About 2/3 of it is the Old Testament, and the Old Testament is in the Christian Bible.
That's correct.
Right? The Christians didn't say it's an historical document that we should read in conjunction with our scriptures. It is included in the Christian scriptures. I asked you true or false.
Because it's part of the learning process. You take what you've learned from the beginning all the way to the end, and in the end, you have new knowledge. Like the New Testament kind of corrects some of the things in the Old Testament, and that's what you go by because it's the newest interpretation. Like with every piece of literature ever.
False, and you truly said false, which to me is deeply heretical because it implies that you're saying that the Old Testament does not belong in the Bible.
Yeah, that's not what I'm saying. So
What are you saying?
to clarify, I'm just saying that I would agree that these things are on a continuity. right? And maybe I misunderstood what you were saying, but now that we have that clarified, I think that these are on a continuity rather than covenantal.
All right, so they're in a continuity. Would you agree that the Old Testament is no less inspired than the New? In other words, it is just as sacred, it's sacred scripture, no less than the New, and on the same footing as the New. You agree?
Sure.
Okay. And you agree that the foundations of Christianity are anchored in the Old Testament, by which I mean that Christianity would be inconceivable without Genesis, the account of creation, the Exodus, the Ten Commandments.
Yeah, it would be totally incoherent.
The prophets. You agree?
Yeah, it'd be totally
you
incoherent.
agree that not only is that Jewish scriptures, but it is no less the Christian scriptures.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And do you agree further that when the Pilgrims and then later the American founders in America saw themselves as building a civilization anchored on Athens and Jerusalem, when they spoke about Jerusalem, they were referring to Christianity, the Old Testament, and the New? True or false?
I would say that that's true.
That is true. And therefore, America itself, our own...
I would say they're talking about the New Testament more than the Old Testament, because that's where Jesus was born, in Bethlehem, Jerusalem, right? That's kind of where that all comes from. I think more people are into the later ones than the first part of the Bible.
Country is based on these two foundations, including the foundation of Jerusalem. If somehow the foundation of Jerusalem, historically, morally, ethically, were to be kicked out, we would be essentially cutting off our own feet. True or false?
Well, just can I ask a clarifying question? So when you say if Jerusalem is kicked out from under our feet, what are you referencing?
I'm referring to the continuous tradition, as you described it, that begins with not just Genesis and Noah and Adam, but then continues with Abraham.
Yeah, you
and
need to have the Old
David.
Testament for there to be a continuity, yes.
Right. And so Jerusalem refers to the whole biblical narrative that begins about 2000 BC with Abraham and continues to the Acts of the Apostles, which is about 60 or 70 AD. That whole story is Jerusalem.
Okay.
And I'm saying that that is a core foundation of our civilization. And
So what?
well, what it means is that that as a country,
Hey, here's a solution, Dinesh. How about we just stop sending Israel any money, and you can send them some of your paycheck every year, and that'll let you still be blessed by your magic, right? You could still be like some of the somewhat chosen people. Like, we don't have to be obligated just because you want to be obligated for this magic mystery tour.
we recognize that we have moral, philosophical, and historical continuities with certain countries. And I would mention two. Great Britain.
So overlapping ethics.
Great Britain, because a lot of the ideas, not only were a lot of the founders coming from Great Britain, but we have had a special relationship with Great Britain that's now extended for many, many years. And it's based on the idea that we've got something in common with these people, even more so than with, say, the Germans or the Norwegians. And therefore, if there's an international crisis, the United States will team up right away with Great Britain as its European sort of, what do you call it, protectorate, and then try.
How'd that work out in Iran, Dinesh? Did Britain come jump in this like crazy fucking war that Trump wanted to start? Did he just jump into there because they had to? No, that's not what happened, Dinesh. So what fucking magic are you talking about here? Some secret thing that we're supposed to know that it's a super secret, special fucking relationship. Oh, well, we don't all think like that. Like they're just a regular country, just like Canada, except maybe just as stupid as Canada.
Try to get Great Britain to win over the other European countries. In other words, this special relationship.
So what?
Okay.
Where do we get to the moral obligation here, Dinesh? Great. We've established, hey, we have a the most special relationship ever with England because our ancestors come from England and France.
Right.
I'll happen to note very quickly, the top white demographic inside the United States is German, not English. Just want to point that out.
Fair enough.
Very, very far removed from what it was initially at our foundation. Where do we ever get to the moral obligation?
Okay, so first of all, let me address your German point because there is a key difference between immigrants and settlers. The British built the country. The Germans came to a good country that the British built. So
Oh, so whenever they came here in 1700, it was all built, right? Like they could just drive over to the coast and go drive down to San Diego. No, Dinesh, they fucking did some building too. It's not just, hey, whoever got here first. We got firsties here, so we get to make all the decisions. No.
Settler is the guy who makes the country, makes the system. The immigrant is the guy who moves because he believes it's a really good club that he wants to join. So it doesn't matter how many immigrants have come later. The building of America was done by the settlers. Now, here's my point. With countries as with people, we have a certain, if you're a conservative, you have a certain respect for your own patrimony. It's yours. It's your lineage.
Blood and
it's
soil?
kind of like saying,
Wait, are you making a blood and soil? I thought you rejected blood and
not
soil.
I'm making an historical, a moral, and
Wait,
an
didn't you write a
intellectual
book
argument.
where you rejected the entirety of blood and soil? And that's the argument you're making here. Blood and soil.
I'm simply
Do
saying.
we have a super special relationship with other white people because they're white, Dinesh?
No, because those white people in other parts of the world had nothing to do with America.
Then
but
what the hell
British-
are you talking about, dude?
I'm talking about the fact that the British did. I'm talking about that the fact that the Bible is situated in that country and no other. It's not as
So what?
So, as Christians, this is something that should be important to us. It's evidently
I'm
not important
okay,
to you.
look. Let's break a couple things down. Absolutely, it's important.
Okay.
Great. Can we get to the moral op part?
Okay.
So they were the good guys in the book 2,000 years ago, Dinesh. Don't watch Star Wars because that changes back and forth. Like the Republic's the good guys, and then they're the bad guys, and then like it'll fucking blow your mind, Dinesh. Like a lot of shit can happen over 2,000 years.
All right. So now let's turn to the people who live in Israel. Do you agree that the people who live in Israel are Jews?
Yes. Mystery
Okay.
solved.
Okay. and all right. And do you
Thought they were Scientologists. Like, what the fuck is this, man? I thought he was a good debater.
also agree that they are directly in the lineage of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob? In other words, they come in a sort of historical, religious, and ancestral line from the old Jews.
And technically, we all come from Adam and Eve. So fucking what, Dinesh?
In other words, what I'm saying is,
You mean that particular tribe, coming off the 12 tribes, that can be traced back?
I'm simply saying that there's a line of continuity in the same way that there's a line of continuity.
I agree. Do you agree
Okay.
that that's the case with Palestinians as well? They come
No.
from the same?
No.
No.
Let's take, for example,
Even though
Gaza.
ancestral DNA points this out?
No, it doesn't.
Yes, it
let's
does.
Let's look at Gaza, for example, which is the
They are Semitic. They are the Semitic people. That's their land. They were there first. He just wants to go back to this particular point in time. He doesn't want to go back any further because then it belonged to somebody else. Doesn't want to go any further in the future because then it also belonged to somebody else. But this at one particular point in history that they owned it. So now they get to go back and take it from anybody who took it in the previous. And that's the logic here you have to have to be a Zionist.
heart of our debate, Gaza.
It's
Gaza-
definitely not the heart of our debate.
Well, I mean the Palestinian debate. The Palestinian debate right now is not about the West Bank, it's about Gaza. That's where okay.
Yeah.
So the point I'm trying to make is that historically, the people who lived in Gaza are not Palestinians. It is a fakery of the name through history that we call them Palestinians. The people who
Don't believe your eyes and ears. Believe this Zionist up here. He'll tell you the truth.
lived in Gaza were the Philistines. The Philistines were Europeans. They came from Greece. They came from Cyprus. This is
Naturally.
archaeologically definitively established.
Are
And
they
so,
close? Are they more closely related than like Ashkenazi Jews are to the historic people
Yes.
of Israel?
the Philistines have vanished off the pages of history.
That's not the question that I asked you.
What is your question?
Mike, the question that I asked you is, would it be the case that the modern Palestinian people would have more ancestry in common with the Jews who currently live in Israel than an Ashkenazi Jew would?
This is a little bit debatable because some of the people who are
See?
from that
See?
region
It's a
of
little bit
Canaan-
debatable,
No,
huh?
well, here's what I'm saying.
That's factual. That is factual information right there. That was the different line that went to there. The Ashkenazi Jews come from a different line even than we're even talking about. That's what's so crazy about this.
If
Okay.
you're making it sound like it is 100% of a genetic argument.
Can you
but-
answer the question I asked you without obfuscation? Is it the case or not that Ashkenazi Jews generally have less shared ancestry than Palestinians do with the current Jewish population of Israel?
And I'm
Isn't
saying-
that in fact the case? No, they don't have as much shared ancestry as the Palestinians do who currently live inside of Gaza with the Jews who currently live in Israel. Isn't it true Ashkenazis don't have as much ancestry?
Yeah, but Judaism, hold on.
Debate over.
Judaism is a combination. You're acting as if Judaism is purely a function of genetics. Judaism
And that's why DNA tests are illegal inside of Israel. If you ever wondered, if you were ever curious.
is a function of genetics
No,
plus history plus religious devotion.
No,
so
Dinesh,
that's what
you
makes
were making that argument because you were making it an argument based on continuity.
If Jews are
but if you
thrown
say the
out-
continuity gets broken, the second it is that we have Ashkenazi Jews who still have the right of return to Israel, though it is the case that they are now outside of that continuity, Dinesh. Now outside of that people group, Dinesh.
Yeah, and let's look at why they're outside. The Jews are forcibly ejected from their homeland.
Everywhere they go for some reason. Almost starting to seem like maybe it's them, right? And just not everyone else in the fucking world. Yeah.
They scatter all over the world. Unsurprisingly, they settle in London, they settle in Europe, they settle in Africa, they settle in Asia, but they never relinquish their claim to the land. If they had said, all right, we're out of here.
But the ones that went to Europe, they had some issues, right? Didn't they have some issues? I distinctly remember some issues. And then somehow they just magically get to go to the Middle East and take some Muslim people's land. No one can explain why, but that's what Dinesh is arguing that we have to pay for every year.
You could then say, all right, other people can wander in, can claim it's theirs. The Jews never gave it up. They were thrown out. Of course, when they settled elsewhere,
And what
there
is
was some,
your-
hold on, there was
Okay.
some intermarriage. There was
All the way back, even into the Bible. It's basically just the story of all the places that the Israel people get kicked out of. funny.
some imports to Judaism by people who converted in, some people converted out. But the Jewish community as a tribe and as a community remained solidly intact through the centuries. I mean, just read.
Wait, this is hang on.
We're
making a
talking
continuity.
about-
You're making a continuity argument, then breaking continuity. You're making a blood and soil argument, then breaking the idea of blood and soil. You mentioned in the beginning the right of conquest, which is your third criteria. Then you say the Jews got thrown out of Israel, which means somebody else had conquest. That's how they got the land, right?
That's right.
So that's a legitimate way to get the land, right?
That's right. And it was
Okay.
legitimate to take it back by the Crusades. So using the conquest ethic,
You heard it from the intellectual. So whoever took it from them has every right to it. So why do we have to give it back to them? And why do we have to pay them every year so they can keep it? Why?
I agree. The Ottomans captured the land
Okay.
and ruled it for a long time. The Ottomans lost World War II, and so by the same ethic of conquest, they were displaced and it became part of the British Mandate. And then the UN basically proposed a partition for the... Now, the point
Hang
is
on,
this.
I'm willing to agree to these facts.
Nice.
Yeah, with any...
Nice pivot there. Just why do we have to pay them every year, Dinesh? Like, fuck.
I'm not sure how we get to the ought though. When do we get to the ought?
Well, when we say we get to the ought, as Christians, we're trying to do what's right. We're trying to support the people who are on the right side of the issue. And
Well,
you
I
seem
don't
to be
know.
saying...
Hang on.
Yes, the abortion side. That's the side we've got to support because they're on the right side for Christians. What the fuck is he talking about? What is the alternative side then? If that's the right side, the feminism side, the fucking woke, the Hollywood side, why is that the side we have to support? Like, what makes that Christian? You keep saying the right versus the wrong. Who's the wrong in this scenario here? That maybe if we have to pay them less, maybe we do want wrong. Like I want wrong if it's cheaper.
When you say Christians, they have to support what's right.
Yeah.
How do Christians know what's right?
Well, okay. Well, in looking at what's right, we look at historical
Christian Zionists don't know what's right. That's the problem. That's the problem.
arguments, moral arguments,
Christian ethics.
spiritual continuity, shared moral principles. We also look at the fact that America is a force for good or on the good side in the world, and therefore there are bad guys trying.
Again, with this good and bad. Those are relative terms. They're just good because we're on this side. If we were on that side, they'd be good. Like, what is he not understanding?
Trying to do us in, and their allies are going to be people that we oppose.
Yeah, okay, so I agree with you in a secular sense that those can be reasons.
Right, but secular
hang on,
reasons-
but you're a Christian. We're talking about whether or not Christians have a moral ought.
Well,
what is
Christians
the
are also-
specific moral ought a Christian has based on Christian ethics, our paradigm, our worldview, not the secular lens, not the secular view, the Christian view? Why do we have to support a Jewish state that could name Antichrist? Why?
Because, first of all, you can't make up your mind if it's a Jewish state or a secular state. You alternate both based on
Ethnically
convenience.
Jewish.
In fact, you alternate it within the same
Ethnically Jewish.
sentence.
Hang on. Ethnic. Don't equivocate. This is pure equivocation. Do you agree with me that there's ethnic Jews and then there are religious Jews?
I agree with that.
Then don't equivocate and say, you can't figure out if it's a Jewish state or a secular state, because, Dinesh, it can be a secular Jewish state, can't it?
Israel was
Can it be a secular Jewish state, Dinesh?
Israel
Can
was
it be a secular Jewish state, Dinesh?
Israel.
Can it be a secular
Yes,
Jewish state?
it is.
Thank you.
Okay, but
Yeah. We got this. He just manhandled him. He just took away his man card. Dinesh, answer the fucking. Nope. Stop. Answer the question. He rubbed his nose in it, and I loved it.
I've never denied it's a secular
You
Jewish
just
state.
got done lecturing me about how I called it a Jewish state, then a secular state.
Right,
Like that
because
was a
I think
contradiction.
on the one hand, I think you're trying to appeal to anti-Jewish sentiment, and for
Oh,
that,
no,
you need,
anti-Semites.
For that,
One second, I wanna give-
you
I wanna
need the
give her an
Jewish label.
anti-Semite.
I wanna
If
give
Israel
Dinesh-
was truly a secular state, a lot of your antagonism would be diminished.
He invoked the word. Thinks he's winning now. Give him some clapture.
I noticed, for example, you don't have the same hostility to Great Britain, right? Why not? They're a secular state, but they don't have the Jewish label, so you don't get excited. What I'm getting at here is
Well, hang on. You're saying that.
I'm saying that-
Can you explain to me just real quick?
Yeah.
Does England, by chance, is there a possibility that they're going to name Antichrist in my lifetime, Dinesh?
Do we pay England's bills? Do we give them free bombs to go murder brown people with? No, so that's still irrelevant. What reason do we have to support them with our money every fucking year and letting them steal all our shit and just get away with it too? Why do we have to do that? I like that answer too.
what do you mean by name Antichrist? What are you talking
I'm
about?
not talking about naming the Antichrist, but if Jews get together inside of Israel and they name a Messiah, is that going to be Jesus Christ?
Israel is not going to get together and name a Messiah.
Okay.
What are you talking about?
You're saying
First
that-
of all, you just said 1 minute ago they're a secular
What?
state. Now you go, what if the secular state names a Messiah?
Okay, inside,
make any sense to
inside
you?
of Israel, do you agree with me that you have the Temple Institute and you have many Jewish organizations that are indeed willing and support the naming of a new Messiah?
There are messianic communities, apocalyptic Jewish messianic communities that believe that the rebuilding of the temple is a prelude to the end times. So what?
And no, that's not what I asked you. I
Yeah,
asked you if it is the case that if these right-wing elements inside of Israel, this would be more the right that is doing this than the left-wing elements which are there, which are more secular. If they get together and they do name an Antichrist, or I'm sorry, a Messiah, would that Messiah necessarily be Antichrist? Not the Antichrist, but antithetical to Christ because it's a false Messiah.
Absolutely.
Okay, great. Then
Would his name be J.D. Vance? I think that's going to be his name.
we have established that right now, by the way, do you know how big this movement is in Israel? Could you point, for instance, to England and say 30% of the population wants to name a new Messiah? No. And by the way, hang on, I
hold
just
on.
want to point something else out. When you talk about this, you say anti-Semitism. It's the opposite. I'm telling you right now, Jews are safer outside of Israel than inside of Israel, and you know that that's true. Can you explain to me how it's anti-Semitic for me to point out, using logic, what's obvious to everybody?
Okay, now explain what you mean. What do you mean when you say Jews are safer outside of Israel? How are they safer?
Yeah, right now, well, at least in every Western nation, there's not a single Western nation that I can look at that where Jews live and have lived for the last 40 years, where they're not safer inside of those nations than they are right now inside of the state of Israel.
You mean because there's a war going on?
Well, not just because there's a war going on, but because there's been a continuation of attacks of terror. In other words, from my view, and while I think this is irrelevant to the debate, I'll bite on it. From my view, it seems to me that Israel has not fulfilled its promise of safety for the Jewish people. It has not done so. And right now, you have more Jews who live outside of Israel than inside of Israel, and they're a lot safer than the Jews who live inside of Israel.
Right.
They are not fulfilling the promise of protecting their people group at all. In fact, they're relying on us to do it for them.
Well, it's a pretty astounding claim when Jews not only have, but to this day are, moving to Israel from all parts of the world, willing to endure the risks and dangers that they face in Israel. And here you are from the kind of comfort of Dallas lecturing Israel on whether it's doing an adequate.
What evidence do you have that anyone is trying to move to Israel in the middle of a war, Dinesh? What evidence do you have? Like, this is just a call to emotion right here. That's all this is. This is like a destiny spurg almost. What the fuck is he talking about there? Have you heard about an industry that's moving a bunch of people into, Israel right now during the bombings? What is
good job
just
protecting
assertion.
the Jews who are voluntarily choosing to come there. There are American
How
Jews
does
who
that
have moved to Israel.
What does that have to do with
and
anything?
there is more danger for them. The reason that there's more danger.
Yes, there is more
Right, but-
danger for
and
them.
but
Yes.
and the reason for that is that Israel is surrounded.
So what is your point, Dinesh? Are you all Andrew said is that there's more danger in there than there is outside of there. Why are you arguing still? You just conceded his point. So this is just a distraction, right? You can all see that?
By Islamic fanatics.
No shit.
Yes, right. Okay.
So, in this
your
really dangerous country surrounded by Islamic fanatics, are they less safe or more safe there than in Western nations, Dinesh?
And are you and
Answer the question I asked like I've been answering yours. Dinesh, is it the case that these people who are in this desert completely surrounded by Islamic lunatics less safe there than they are in Western nations? Yes or no?
Yeah, they are more safe in Western nations with fewer Islamic fanatics.
Why do I have to beat these things out of you when you just agree with me?
Because you are pursuing a
He's being very feminine right here, right? I'm just going to point that out.
tactic of pretending like you're making a point when there is actually no
Points
point
you
to be
agree
made.
with?
If a country based on a common identity in their own ancestral homeland it's like saying I have a ranch. I'm surrounded by outlaws who want to burn down my ranch, rape my wife, kill my kids, and you go, well, why don't you then give up your homeland, give up your ranch? You're obviously safer if you move somewhere else. And I'm like, no, this actually is my homeland. I have every right to be here. And all I want is the right to fight back against these monsters.
So give me $20 billion a year. It's for my ranch.
Who also hate you and declare you, America, to be their great Satan. I'm their little Satan.
Yeah, but this
and
is
you're
hilarious.
pretending like you're doing us a massive favor.
You're giving me or describing all sorts of positions to me that I haven't given, which is hilarious. For one thing, let's use your ranch example.
Okay.
You're absolutely 100,000% correct. I have outlaws. They're all around my little ranch, right? It's my ranch. I got the deed. I'm fighting for that shit. Do I have a right to go over to my neighbor and demand that he help?
No.
Hey, does the Bible say I have to give them money every year? Does it say that? Does it say that?
No, wait, what?
Hold on.
Huh?
Hold on.
Wait, what?
Well-
Did you say no?
I said by itself, no. If your
By
ranch,
itself, no.
yeah, if your ranch was encircled and your neighbor's ranch was not imperiled at all, and if your neighbor
if
had
they
nothing
say-
to do with it,
Yeah.
then you're right. You would be appealing on the basis of like mercy or common heritage. You would be in Churchill's position because the Nazis had not attacked America. America faced no immediate danger from Hitler, and Churchill basically was reduced to begging. But the United States entered in on the Allied side. Why? Because we have historical, moral, philosophical, even spiritual continuities with Europe, and we came to the aid of Europe for that reason.
More like
now,
the
Israel
Japanese
situation-
attacked us and blew up our entire Pacific fleet and drug us into a massive war. Did we just forget like a whole big part of this?
I think you've got your dates all garbled. The Germans invaded Poland in 1939. Right?
Yeah.
The United States, yes, did get into the war in 1947, but the point I'm trying to make...
Wait, what? What?
I'm saying that the American ranch was not threatened.
No. What did you say before that?
Okay, well, let me put it this way.
What did you say before that?
The United
Just
States...
hold on. From
The
the audience,
United
I need
States
to be
could have
quiet.
fought against Japan and
idiot.
left the Nazis alone.
Oh, I thought before I was getting my dates all mixed up.
No,
And I
you
didn't
were.
know. And then you're like,
No,
well, wait a second.
I'm saying the United States had no
7 years.
reason to fight in the European theater when the attack came
Except
from
that
Japan.
Germany declared war on us.
Germany did declare war on the United States, but
We had no reason to go to war except
Right.
for
And
philosophical
so-
reasons.
Hey man, what do you got to do to be considered an intellectual? Because if he's one, I could easily be one.
exactly. And so here you have the Iranian
Jesus.
parliament burning the American flag. Here you have Hamas and Hezbollah declaring that we are their enemy no less than Israel. We are the infidels from the point of view of Islam. But according to you, our ranch is not threatened. I think it is. I think our ranch and their ranch are both in the sights of the bad guys who have a massive global movement. By the way, they're not content to fight over there.
Hang on. Let me concede a couple of points here. Now we're getting
Okay.
somewhere. That's kind of nice.
Yeah.
So the first thing is that never conflate my ideas here with the idea that I don't think that Islam is one of the worst, most horrific ideologies known to man, because it is. I argue against it often and all the time.
Maybe the second worst.
But you see, I'm a
okay.
true America firster, Dinesh.
Third worst, Scientologist. Forgot that one.
Yeah.
Neither of these ideologies needs to overlap Christian ideology at all. When
Okay.
you talk about how this country, this 10 million people are surrounded by enemies, right? Great, I understand. I completely agree. They have the right to defend themselves. Great, I completely agree. Why do we have to go in and defend them, though? You say, well, we have a shared common enemy. I can even grant that that's true. Why is it then that we need to leave that state in Jewish hands if we have to defend it? Why? Why do we have an ought to do that? Why can't we demand Christian immigration to Israel? Why is it that we can't demand, as their protectorate, that we have tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of Christians move into that area so we can protect our own holy sites, Dinesh? Why not?
Well, number one, 3.8 billion doesn't buy you a whole country. Second of all, we make all kinds of alliances with countries where we don't base.
No, countries are just given out. You know, you just sign it over to Lord Rothschild. That's how countries are given out. We know that. That's just how it's always done, right? You just find a Rothschild and give it to him. That's how we do it.
Basically tell them what they should do to their LGBTQ people. We have alliances with Korea, with Japan, with India, with Great Britain. Great Britain is just as LGBTQ as Israel. Our alliance with Israel is based upon mutual defense. It's not based upon supporting gay rights or the Pride Parade in Tel Aviv. No one's saying that we should support that as Christians. We oppose it equally. What I am saying is that
So
as
then where
a
does the
coun-
ought come in? I still don't understand where the moral obligation or ought actually comes in here. I've been listening. I've been waiting for it. You have not yet given me you're a Christian and you're a Jew who lives in Israel, and so therefore you have some obligation morally to support you. What is it?
This entire debate has just been like one of those TPUSA roundabouts where you just don't even talk about the topic at all. You're telling stories about George Washington and shit. You know, stories from the Bible, like some fucking Gilgamesh shit. Like, what the fuck? This is what they call intellectual. This isn't fascinating to me. Like, they literally all have the same tactics when it comes to Zionism or feminism. They just cannot talk about what we're talking about here. They're just gonna roundabout all around the topic and then never make it there and just assert that they just convinced you of what they're trying to tell you. It's like a fucking magic trick or something.
saying that in the ensemble of countries where good guys are fighting against bad guys, and let's start with your point. You
Good and
agree
bad.
that Islam is a truly pernicious and evil force.
Good and bad, right? Because the one side's the terrorist and the other side, that's the fucking military. So they're not terrorists. So they got to be the good guys, right? They're killing the babies and they're the ones with the babies, but they're the good guys killing the innocent babies. So it's just like they have this weird thing in their head with like cowboys and Indians or something, like where one's got the black hat on, one's got the white hat on. Like maybe they're both bad guys and let's just stay the fuck out of this and not fucking get involved. He never gives us the reason why we have to do that. It's just this roundabout.
It's no less here than over there.
I
correct?
believe that both ideologies, both Judaism and Islam, both lead to massive problems because they're both heresies. Both of these
But heresies,
from my
even
view,
heresies are not equal in
That's
the sense
true.
that, hold on,
That's true.
the Jews aren't trying to make us Jews. Jews are not in
That's
the...
true.
No, they're trying to make us goyim, right? Right? They have to have henchmen, you know, because Dracula sleeps at night, right? And I'm not saying the Jews are doing that. I'm saying Israel. Israel views it that way, to be very clear.
conversion
Jews,
business.
you're right. Jews don't evangelize. I agree with
Islam
that.
is not only trying to dominate us spiritually or religiously, but Islam is a religion of comprehensive law. It covers the whole orbit of life. It tells you how you should sleep and whether you are allowed
Whether
to
you can
fart
own a
when you have
dog.
sex.
Whether you can own a dog.
Islam is a manual of instructions of life. Now, here's the point. And this is, I think, something that's a little hard for us to accept, but it makes a lot of sense. The Israelis know how to fight Islam and radical Islam in a way that we don't.
Yet they still need all our money, right? We got to give them all their money because they can fight better than us. Even though we go fight all their wars for them, right? We've got to make the bombs for them to go kill people for some reason and then give it to them. I'd be the greatest warrior on the world too if you just gave me free weapons to go murder people with. That's not that difficult. It's really not. They stole nukes from us and we let them get away with it. You know that, Dinesh. Like the nukes they got, that was our uranium they stole. That was the plans they stole. And for some reason, everybody just lets them get away with it. Like, we know who did it. We did nothing about it. Same thing with the fucking Soviet plans. We know who did it. We know they sold it to the fucking Soviets once they got it. And we did nothing about it except we caught the guy and just did something to him, but we let him go and go back to them. And we still call them a good ally. Like, what would a bad ally look like? I'm just dying to know. What would a bad ally look like if your good allies, the greatest ally, some would say? What is a bad ally look like if that's what the good allies do? I'm just dying to know.
Our record in fighting radical Islam is abysmal.
So is theirs.
Their record in fighting radical Islam is outstanding.
Oh, it is, isn't
Yeah,
it?
and in fact, all the things that
So they wouldn't need our help
complains
with
about
that then, would they?
is
They wouldn't need the help of this nation that's just terrible at fighting these crazy Islamists. They're so good at it, right? They don't need our help?
Okay, let me put it this way.
Do they need our help?
Our debate has nothing to do with giving money to Israel or arms to Israel. Let me ask you this.
Well, then what are we supporting?
Well, when
We're just cheering? Yay!
well, no.
What are we doing?
Okay, so when you say that somebody is morally if I were to say to you, you know what? You've got a kid who lives in a really bad neighborhood. A lot of bad guys out to kill your kid. You're morally obligated to support your kid.
This is like if Sheldon from The Big Bang Theory was like retarded, you know? That's what this feels like.
Uh-huh.
It doesn't follow that you have to buy your kid a house, buy him a gun. You might practice tough love on the kid. You might tell the kid, you better cut this shit out. You might have all kinds of instructions that the kid will oppose. Sure. You will also accept that your interests and the kid's interests will sometimes diverge. So I'm admitting all of this with regard to Israel. I'm simply saying that the obligation to support is generic. It doesn't specify give them 3.8 billion. Let me ask you this.
Well, hang on. I want to use this analogy. I want to use this analogy real quick because let's go back to your analogy. I think it's fine.
Okay.
You say, hey, there's like a mom and her son, or a dad and the son, and they're in a rough neighborhood.
And you're saying the son is a heretic. He doesn't go to church.
No. You say, hey, there's a moral obligation for you to like get your son out of this neighborhood, and then you give a bunch of qualifiers. Dinesh says, that means maybe you tell them to stop doing this, or maybe you take this action, or maybe you take that action, or you do, blah, blah, blah. But the whole point of this is to say that there's a moral obligation there with a must, ought, do something in order to prevent this from happening to their son, right?
Right.
Okay, great. What's that with Israel?
So our interests and Israel's interests diverge on many points. Israel would like right now for the United States to go all the way, pulverize Lebanon, have regime change in Iran. Trump is saying no.
Yeah.
This is a recognition where we are saying our interest is the same as yours insofar as pulverizing Iran and breaking its military back. Once we have done that and stopped the nuclear possibilities, we're ready to quit. We're ready to go home. If you want to continue, you can. This
is just gibberish, dude. Where do we get to the moral ought? Where do we? You still haven't given me a. You have a moral obligation, like that mom does, to move the kid out of that rough neighborhood with all of those bad guys. Wouldn't I just use that analogy and say, okay, great, then we have an obligation to move 10 million Jews among the Western nations to get them out of the neighborhood of the bad guys?
And that would be your solution?
No, I'm saying if I'm using your analogy
But,
for the
well-
obligation, wouldn't you say that the mom should move the kid out of the neighborhood
The
with the mom?
the analogy was intended to clarify the meaning of what does it mean to have a moral
I like this. Let's deport Israel. Let's deport Israel. That's the plan. Let's do it.
obligation to support. No analogy travels on all fours.
I
So
agree.
if I say, okay, I'm going to get my kid out of the bad neighborhood, it may be that I decide, okay, the kid can stay there, but I need to help with providing security. Or I need to make sure that I go visit every week to make sure that the apartment isn't being wrecked.
But where does the moral obligation here come in for the United
Hey, if Israel's our kid in this scenario, how bad do we get to punish them whenever they commit a genocide? I'm trying to gauge that.
States,
It
sovereign
comes-
nation,
it
and
comes
the
with
the Christians inside of it specifically? That's what we're talking about. The Christians. Where does their obligation come in to help the Jews in Israel do fucking anything? Where's the obligation for that? Where?
Well,
What?
Do you agree that the Iranian regime and the forces of Islam in the region are evil?
Sure.
Okay.
I believe that their ideology
Their ideology is
Here,
evil.
let's
And
do-
would you agree
let's
that
differentiate
Israel,
a couple of terms.
that Israel,
Yeah.
in fighting to change, clean up, remake, transform the Middle East, and produce? Hold on.
Hang on. I got to clarify one thing.
Yeah.
Just the terms. When you say evil, for me, evil, the doing of evil, would be moving away from participating in the energies of God and Jesus Christ. That's how I would differentiate what evil is from good. Good would be participating in those energies. So when you say the ideology of Islam, you don't believe Arabs are evil, right?
No.
You believe Islam, the ideology is evil, right?
Right.
Okay, Jews, from my perspective, that ideology is also evil.
Right, but I think we're talking about evil in two completely different senses. There is a
How?
sense in which heresy is evil, right? Because
Yeah.
it departs from the theological straight path. In fact, orthodoxy means a straight path. Heresy means a deviation.
Sure.
We're talking about evil in a more natural law sense, by which I mean
I don't
things
believe
like,
in natural law.
You don't believe in natural law?
No.
Okay. Do you believe
I'm
in
not
the
a
Ten
natural law
Commandments?
proponent because I'm not a Catholic. Sure, the Ten Commandments are fine.
Do you believe that do you believe that to take a 5-year-old kid and forcibly transition that kid is evil?
Of course.
Okay. Now, is that the same as the kind of evil that you were describing when you were talking about Christian heresy? I mean, in other words, Judaism is a heresy, and that's one type of evil, I
So,
grant.
okay,
I'm saying
I
there's
understand
another
what you're
type of
saying.
evil.
I just wanna make sure I
Murder
got-
is evil.
Yeah. I just want to make sure I
okay.
got it right. So when you're making the differentiation, you're saying this is evil and this is evil and this is a lesser evil than this one.
I'm saying that this is a force for good in combating this evil.
Yeah, but you're still saying both are evil.
Well,
if you're
I'm saying
saying
that-
both are evils, you want us to support the lesser evil.
Well, I certainly do believe that. There are many cases.
How is murdering children a lesser evil? I'm really curious about that too. Like whenever they killed all those children in Gaza and the women, like how is that the lesser evil? Like what did the other side do to the world that like you can compare to that? Like what? That wasn't them in Germany. That
Cases
wasn't
of
them.
supporting the
But
lesser
then
evil.
aren't you admitting Jewish ideology is evil?
Well, I'm admitting that Jewish theology is a heresy, or at least
And that is evil.
It's evil in its rejection of Christianity. I agree
Great.
with that. Theologically, of
Perfect.
course, but that's,
you're just saying
but we-
support
but we
evil
just
to
come
su- to
right
stop
back to the
evil.
fact- no.
Support evil and to stop evil. Perfect.
So the man who insisted that Israel is a secular state makes a convenient switcheroo and is now making Israel a theological state.
How is he using that point? He just got his face smashed in when he tried to make it, and he's trying to use that as like a talking point here in this. Like, does he think we don't remember when you just got pie-faced, like right in front of us all, like and like got all embarrassed? Like, what the fuck?
Which is out of sync with
No
Christianity.
self-awareness.
Go one way or the other. You're trapped on your own.
Actually, perfect. I love this trap.
Okay.
Is secular ethics evil?
Yes.
Oh, yes. Oh, shit.
What?
You got me.
Wow.
This is owning. Like, I think Andrew technically owns him now. He could bring him home if he wanted to.
We have had secular ethics in the world for about 500 years
it's
at
evil.
least.
Right. It's
And we
evil.
have secular ethics that dominate this country right now.
Uh-huh.
Would you say that the United States right now is evil?
I would say that the secularists who are in charge of it are fucking evil.
Okay.
Evil.
Okay.
Take that, Trump.
But
He's on our side now.
but
Evil fucking bastards.
but notice
Absolutely.
But notice that when it comes to Israel, you foist the evil on the nation.
Oh,
when
no.
it comes to America, you're pro-American, your 4th of July, your 250th anniversary, you're America.
Yeah, I don't hate the name Israel or the fucking just the citizens. I hate the people running it, the people making all the decisions and bribing all the politicians. I hate, the dark hand that controls it, the big Rothschild guy. That's what we're talking about.
Rah, 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 but there are these bad secular people in the country. You're against them, but you're not anti-American, are you?
Perfect. Let's use this
Are you?
exact same analogy.
Okay.
We'll use the exact same analogy back the other way. Right here in the United States, there's tons and tons and tons of Christians. They're not evil, right? We don't consider them evil. They're
Well,
not evil. Trinitarian Christians are not evil. You don't believe it?
Zionist Christians are pretty evil, though. I think they're pretty evil.
I don't believe it. Great. That's not an evil ideology. The secularists in charge of the United States are evil bastards with an evil ideology. You agree. Let's move it over to Israel. Same analogy. If you have a Jewish state, the secular Jews, evil ideology. The Jewish theology, which also exists there, evil ideology. So both of these that we're combating are evil ideologies. You want us to support both of those evil ideologies to take out another evil ideology when right here we have an evil ideology we're combating in our own nation in order to support the ideology which isn't evil, Christianity.
Now,
Right. And just from a strategic point, why wouldn't we just let the weaker the weaker get absorbed and taken over by the stronger, and then just take out the stronger while they're weak because they've just had to fight this war with the other side? So technically, even strategically, you would just let them two fight it out, and then when you're finished, now we'd attack you. That's everybody sees that, right?
Perfect.
Now, it is a fact of the world, and it is a fact of the Bible that many
A fact of the Bible. Dinesh is going to tell you what God says we got to do. Just pay attention. Every time a Zionist wants to tell you what God wants you to do the opposite.
figures, nations, evil in themselves, are nevertheless A, on the side of good, or B, the chosen instruments of God. God will frequently use not only flawed, but downright evil people. God talks in the
You heard that. He's done told us. God has chosen his people, and we just have to listen and do whatever they say. Like, just however much money we got to give them, we just got to sign off on it. When they tell us to go start wars, whatever, go attack their enemies for them. Because God said so. Because Dinesh read it, and he's going to tell us all. Like, we live in idiocracy, right? This is how we're going to do it now.
Bible about the fact that the Assyrians, monsters, pagans, are, quote, the rod of my justice.
Yes,
God is
uses
using
evil
the
to do good.
Assyrians.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
So why is he going to use the
and
Muslims
this is
to
also
do good
true
then?
of individuals. All the things that you talk about that are bad in Israel today were going on in the Old Testament. The
Yeah, but-
worshiping of the golden calf, all kinds of
Yeah, but
sexual
do you
immorality.
understand why this is illogical?
Here's why. Because you're drawing the fallacious conclusion that somehow if the Jews are secular, if they have LGBTQ rallies, somehow they have ceased to be the people of God. They are no longer sort of real Jews. They are now secularists. They are outside our area of moral concern. And I'm simply suggesting that the God of the Bible takes the opposite view. Never once does God say, you know what, you Jews, because you worship the golden calf, I'm taking back all my promises to Abraham. Give me the land back because I never gave it to you unconditionally. I gave it to you conditionally, hand it back over. Does God ever say that in the Bible?
He just punishes them. No, I'm not making that claim.
And Israel has been punished.
You're just putting words in my mouth. Again, back to the ethical claim. None of this even matters. It's completely...
Weren't they Jews in Sodom and Gomorrah too? Like, he smited all of them. Like, he gave them consequences. What is this dude talking about? You got to follow the consequences. You got to follow the rules.
irrelevant to what you're even talking about.
Why is it irrelevant?
I'll tell you why.
No,
This is
but-
hilarious.
You think the character of God is irrelevant to our
you-
discussion of good and evil?
You made the claim that God will use evil for good. Do you agree with that?
Yes.
Okay, great. You agree with that. Then why do we assume that he's going to use the evil ideology of the Jew for good, but not the Muslim?
Well, God may well.
Hang on.
Yeah.
I want to repeat that question because I want you to answer it.
I'm answering it.
Why should we assume that it's only Jewish people who we both agree hold an evil ideology instead of Muslims who we agree hold an evil ideology that God won't use them for good? Why do we just instantly assume it's only going to use Jewish people for good?
Well, number one, we are fallible people in the world. So we have to look and make judgments. It is possible to argue, for example, someone might say, due to the fact that America has become like Sodom and Gomorrah, God used 9/11 as a form of divine punishment on America, right? You could make that argument.
Yeah.
It's a very speculative type of argument.
I agree.
Yeah. And so I
So
wouldn't,
is the
wouldn't
argument
make
that
it, but
God's
in
going to use
theory,
Jews to do good.
In theory, it's not impossible.
Speculative. That's a speculative argument to say God's going to use this evil ideology.
When you're defending your side, you should never use the phrase, technically it's possible. Because it's really not very likely, right? The way that they have just these holes in their logic almost implies that like they have some kind of like traumatic brain injury. And he was in prison for a while. There might have been some issues in there. Like, I don't know if he got beat up or something, but this just does not make sense. But he's a Zionist, so usually it's not gonna.
Do good. That's your argument.
So my argument was not, quote, God is using the Jews who are evil to do good. My
No, with an
argument
evil
was a
ideology.
refutation. Hold on. Let's be really clear.
Okay.
You basically were saying these are bad people and they are outside of God's purposes. And I said many times God uses people, even people who are have completely rejected him, as his instruments for his divine purposes.
Like Muslims.
He's done it repeatedly. Now,
Like Muslims?
Now, I don't deny that in principle, God could use the Indians, the Muslims, the Chinese. Yes, God can use those
That's
people.
the whole point, man. You just are defaulting for some reason to say only this specific people group who I think holds an evil ideology, which you did say, that people group God's going to use for good. These other people groups. So you're asking us to pick an interest between two evil ideologies, pick and choose which ideology we prefer, because you think that God's going to prefer that we prefer one of those evil ideologies.
Well,
Dinesh.
first of all,
in spite of what they're doing currently too, right? Just ignore the pile of dead babies over on this side. Just ignore that and think God is going to side with them anyway. That's just the fucking crazy part here. Like God doesn't have eyes. He can't see all those dead babies. Maybe those dead babies were Hamas. Maybe the one in the stroller. Yeah, it was a Hamas midget, right? God knows. So this is insane that you think you're gonna try and use God to tell us we got to side with Israel on this. That's insanity.
That's the reduction of your logic.
First of all, you're arguing as if there is no connection between God the Father. I mean, if you look at the Christian Bible, you could almost say that
Magic Jew blood?
Hold on. You could almost say that the Old Testament is the biography of God the Father, the Gospels are the biography of God the Son, and the Acts are the biography of God the Holy Spirit. This is the Trinity right there. And this is the historical unfolding of the Trinity in the Christian story. And now you're pretending like there is no relationship between Yahweh, the God of the Old Testament, God the Father, and the Jews?
Are you pretending that there's no relationship between God the Father and Christians?
Yes. No, I'm saying
that's really what's hilarious here.
No, I'm saying
we can break it down. Hang on, we'll break it down. I'll break it down with you. I'll go right along with you.
Would you
Jews
agree?
have magic Jew blood? Yes or no?
Have what?
Magic Jew blood, so they're preferred by God?
Well, God isn't picking based on magic Jew blood.
That's why I gave him the space lasers. Of course, that's why.
God is picking based upon a particular community that is built around a set of divine instructions, rights, laws, commandments.
Does this
prophets.
particular community have a specific DNA by chance?
Sure.
Got it. So, and we could trace that through their blood, right? So you would basically just say that people who have this particular blood are favored by God.
Well, no more. I mean,
that's why you can't check it in Israel. They'll always be the chosen people if you can't check.
You could make the same argument about Christians. Christians have DNA.
Exactly. So, and I would make the argument. I would make that exact argument about Christians. kind of hilarious here as we're kind of moving through this. We're finding out that, one, you still have no moral ought for why it is that Christians are supposed to support Jews or Israel. Haven't heard a single argument.
Well, that's because
I thought up some new reasons not to. Actually, he did a terrible job.
and by the way,
that's because you're setting a standard where I am a Christian monk sitting on a sacred pillar in the Himalayas, and you're now asking me, give me a reason to support Israel.
Yeah.
I'm talking about Christians living in the world where we recognize that in the world there's a lot of admixture of good and evil. And there might be good people in an Islamic world, but the Islamic ideology is bad. There might be good people
the
in
Jewish
Iran
ideology
right
is
now.
also bad by your own admission.
Jewish theology is
nothing.
bad. Judaism isn't, quote, an ideology. Judaism is a theology, and I agree.
Where do you get your ideology from?
Well,
Your
what I-
theology.
Well, what
You
I was
know who
getting
said
at,
that? You in your book.
well,
To be fair, he didn't write that, so blame the fucking ghostwriter.
You
said-
in your own book said
I
that.
said a little minute ago, and you agreed that Islam is a comprehensive ideology that includes family law, divorce, honor killing, Sharia. Judaism is not an ideology in that sense. It is not trying to create a sort of comprehensive supervision over the world.
Except its
Islam
own
is.
There you heard it. Reasons, raw reasons that don't make any fucking sense at all, other than in Dinesh's head. Like, for some reason, those dots get connected up there. He's like the craziest looking like connected dots ever. It makes no fucking sense. Just because I think this side's better. Because Bible says things. He does. He's not a biblical scholar here either. Like, it doesn't even make any sense. Like, one side is murdering children. You can't see it? Okay.
state. Its own state.
It
with
doesn't
its own
do it in
laws?
Israel. Israel doesn't have. When is the last time you heard, for example, of Jews being stoned for adultery, like in the
Hey, where in the Bible did Jesus turn the other cheek when they were murdering a bunch of children? Did he just like see a bunch of children getting murdered and just turn the other cheek and let them murder a bunch of other children? Is that what Dinesh is arguing here? Is that his, I can't get it. I'm just not getting it.
Old Testament?
Oh,
Happens
not
all
in
the time?
Forever. Not in forever.
Exactly.
Yeah, of course.
So, in other words, there's a big difference. In Islam, you still do get stoned. You
Yeah,
get thrown
sure.
out of windows.
Sure.
You get killed by your own family members. You get killed for leaving
But
the religion.
nobody's making a dispute there. The dispute that we have is whether or not
Yeah, and so the
Christians
point I
have
was
any
making-
obligation.
Right. So one side is too strict and the other side is not strict enough. Right. So you want us to side with the woman side, right, Dinesh? We're supposed to side with the lady side, and I don't do that anymore.
To morally
Okay.
to support Israel
All
or
right.
support Jews who you, by your own admission, you say is an evil ideology.
And I was saying that Israel, against that ideology, is doing a lot of good. If there's a ring of pedophiles and a cop decides, I'm going to go in there and I'm going to beat the shit out of all these people and I'm going to save all these kids, you go, wait a minute, isn't the cop a Jew? And I'm like, yeah. And you're like, well, isn't he a heretic? Doesn't he have the wrong ideology? Shouldn't we be rejecting him as much as the pedophiles? Dinesh, why are you making arguments for the lesser evil?
This is backwards. It would be like
How is it
would be
backwards?
like-
I'm saying
Yeah, in this scenario, the police officer is the one not murdering the children, because in the real world, the bad guys are the ones murdering children. Dinesh, what is he not getting?
it would be like a
Israel-
cop who was also a pedophile beat the shit out of 10 pedophiles.
How is the cop?
And I'm like, okay, that's
We just
I forgot they don't murder them all. Some of them they like to, first, and then murder them. Probably. I don't know how it works over there.
right on, pedophile cop who beat.
Wait
up
a minute.
Like, what are you talking about?
so
It's like an evil
pedophilia.
ideology. You make me want to pick and choose, but why? Why should I support either? Why?
Right. So because the cop is a drunk and he insults his wife and he got divorced and he has a mistress.
No, he murders his children. How about that one? Murders the children. That's the part that really bothers people, Dinesh.
We're not going to support him in his campaign against the pedophiles because he's no better than the pedophiles because they're both evil, according to you.
No, you're taking. So
According
if
to
you
you.
want to take the extremes there, we can actually do that, and we can look at that.
Why is
same-
it an extreme?
we can-
Let's
Sure,
look-
sure. Hang on. We'll look
So
at we'll look at the
pedophilia
same logic. We'll look,
is Sharia.
yeah. Hang on.
Pedophilia equals Sharia. It's the comprehensive
Yeah.
Islamic law.
Are you
The
going to
Jew-
use your national resource or your resources? Let's just use your.
I find it offensive to even compare Sharia to like the people that did Epstein, right? You got to get us to get past Epstein while our shadow government is hiding it from us still. You've got to get us to get past that to go to defend this other country that orchestrated all of that and tell us that God wants us to do that. You got to get me on board with all of that. That's just nuts that you would even try God. You'd do better to say Satan wants us to do that. And maybe you would get a couple of people to convert that way, but you're not going to convince us that God thinks that Israel's the good guys. Like on Dallas, they would be the bad guy. They would be the one that gets shot every end of the season. And you got to wait till next season to see if he lives. That would be them. They would be that guy.
Same example. We'll
Okay.
use the example of the drunk.
Yeah.
He's a drunk. And we're all morally against drunkenness, let's say. I mean, I'm
Not
not
me, but
I'm not.
perhaps you
but,
are.
But let's just say in this hypothetical that you are. So the drunk cop comes in, he beats up all the pedophiles, and we go, right on, man. You beat up these pedophiles, that's great. And what you're doing is a lesser evil, because we assume in this analogy that drunkenness is evil, right?
Exactly.
Now, are we going to give this guy any resources to go get beer?
Yes, if he did a good job. I would give him
That's
some
it.
resources.
So you're gonna,
I would.
you're gonna support a thing you consider to be evil?
No, I'm not. I'm not supporting the evil. I mean, if you ask me if I was
Then what
gonna-
makes him evil? What makes the drunk evil in this
well, what
analogy?
I'm
then?
getting at is that the cop who did this deserves a medal. If
I'm offended that he just keeps comparing the cop who just like slaps around his wife to that they get to be the side that murders the children, steals our shit, like steals our secrets, bribes our politician. Like how many things does you get to just equal up to slapping your wife around? Like that seems like they do a lot more bad shit than that. Like there's maybe even what they did to Kennedy. Like we could get into it. There are a lot of allegations is what I'm saying. And to just like level that to, oh yeah, he just slaps his wife around. And the other side that hasn't done anything to America, those guys, they're gonna be the murderers, right? They're the kid touchers. Like why do they get to be that side? They're not even affecting us over here. And Israel that's doing all this other awful shit and the whole world hates them. Why do they get to be just the cop who slaps his wife around when she gets too mouthy? Why is that the way his analogy works? Like it seems almost like he's trying to like program you here to see this. There's just the lesser of two evils. What's lesser about it? Tell me what Iran has done to America versus what I can tell you that Israel has done while we pretend like they're our allies still somehow.
If you ask me, are we morally obligated to support
Yeah,
cops
great.
who are
Give him a
kicking
medal.
the ass
Here,
of pedophiles?
we'll go over
my
every
answer is
time-
yes.
every
And
time
it
a
has
Jewish
nothing
person-
to do with what
Yeah.
their private lives are like and whether this is like.
Oh,
you
this
know,
is great.
Yeah. So what I'm getting at is you agree. Let's talk about what we agreed. You agreed that Islam represents a kind of comprehensive evil. You agreed that because that is the case.
No, I agree. Both of these ideologies encompass
and now they
an evil.
So you would say, for example, that Judaism poses the same menace, for example, to Western civilization, to your and my religious freedom, to taking over America that, say, Islam does.
I would say that the embrace of
How many senators do Muslims own? Like maybe 2, 3? How many does that religion own? And fucking not even trying to hide it from you. They take group photos and let you know they run the fucking show. Yeah, which one do you think's more dangerous? One with no control in our country, or the one that can make us go to war with their enemies if they want us to? Which one seems more dangerous?
secular Jews, and that being a part of the extension of the ideology of Judaism, exactly because they don't have the same formations that you just explained Islam does create an existential threat of progressive liberal ideology all the time, including in their own nation, Israel. And I do consider that to be the existential threat of humanity right this second. Progressivism is the worst threat to planet Earth right now.
I agree.
Even above Islam, for now.
I agree. See, okay, so this is
And progressivism is Zionism. That's what I've been trying to hammer into everyone's head. And I even got a strike on YouTube just for pointing it out. This is all progressive bullshit. The Zionism side springs from where? Hollywood. Hollywood is owned by Zionists. Can't say the religion, but you can say Zionists because some of them are not of that religion, right? But still, Zionism is behind all of this. all of it, and finally everybody's seeing it. I love
This
this.
is why debates
Best
like
debate
this are
ever.
good. I would argue that the primary authors of Western secularism are, well, if I had to name a single religious group, it would have to be the Episcopalians. Why? Because where is progressivism the most ensconced in America? The answer is in the Northeast. That's why the guy from Maine stood up in the beginning and said, Maine has been ruined. It hasn't been ruined by Jews, by the way. It's been ruined by white, Protestant, Anglicans for the
Agreed.
most part, but Unitarians. Okay.
So these heresies lead to bad outcomes
Right.
due to the fact that they push in secular ideas. But just like you would make the claim, and I would agree with you, that many Protestant ideologies, especially out east, which is where it landed first, right? What we end up seeing is that they push in progressive value structures. The problem that you have with Judaism is it does the same thing. It often pushes for secular ethics, secular values, due to the fact that it does not evangelize nor have these same foundations you're criticizing Islam for.
Right, but it's not because
Is that
of-
true, though?
No, because
No,
because
it is too
because
true.
you are blaming. Look, let's put it this way: with the Christians, you're saying that the deviation comes from departing from Christianity. So you would say, well, these Unitarians aren't really Christian.
Didn't
These-
Jews depart from Christianity?
No.
Judaism?
No.
Yes.
Hold on. Of course, Judy. Of
The
course,
main part of Christianity called Christ?
The analogy we were making is as follows. You are saying that secular Judaism is the fault of Judaism. That's why you said
Yes.
Judaism produces this.
Yes.
But
Yes, I
secular-
am. In fact,
right.
it's just like I'm saying that this Protestants who have bad theology, that leads to a secular ideology,
Okay.
provably.
And let me
That's
ask you
what
this.
we saw with Judaism. Its same foundational heresy leads to secular values and progressivism. All we have to do is look at the state they're currently in that they founded, and what do you see? Dinesh, honestly, is it a progressive state or not?
It is a progressive state, but so is America. And what I'm getting at
And
here
America's
is
founded
that-
by Protestants who
what
are
I'm
in
getting at
heresy,
is,
exactly.
Why does
Right. We have a crazy left too. So we just got to go support the country that's like our crazy left. And that's the conservative view on that, right? Right? It makes no fucking sense. No, there's no way you can skin this to make it make sense. Go support the people who own all the shit that just shoved Zionism, shoved liberalism, shoved woke, shoved all these brain dead feminism, all of it. They're the ones pushing the agenda. Go support them, or else you're not conservative. You say you've been fighting this for fucking years. For years we've been arguing, yes, the Hollywood, the liberal left, and all this. They don't own anything, right? The Zionists own it all. And they're the ones who push it. They're the ones who ram it down your throat. And now you want us to go defend the people that did all that. That's what makes no sense to me.
Judaism have to account for secularism as a fault of Judaism, but Christianity suffers no blame, no responsibility, no inherent
It
objection
does.
by the fact.
Protestantism does. You just gave an accounting of it. You just said Protestants hit out east. When you have all these different Protestant heretical sects out east, that led to a progressive ideology. I said, yeah, I agree.
Hold on one sec. Hey, Sean, I think the mic, we might have lost Andrew's mic.
No.
Testing.
Okay.
I think we got
We're
it.
good.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I say I agree. The Protestant ideology led to
Watch.
progressive values. Somehow, though, when it comes to another heresy you agree is a heresy, which also led to huge progressive values in a state you just got done saying is progressive, that has nothing to do with Jews.
Because-
that has nothing to do with Jews. Has nothing to do
I didn't
with...
say it has nothing to do with Jews. I
it
said
has to do with
nothing to
Judaism
do-
being a heresy,
I
man.
said it has nothing to do with Judaism, just like I would say the same, that in the case of the Northeast, the progressivism comes out of a rebellion against Christianity. Now, what
like
the left- hold on.
Judaism? Like
It's a
Judaism?
rebellion against Judaism, whereas you're presenting it as a manifestation of it.
Wait, say that again?
I'm
What?
saying that the secularism in Israel is a result of a rebellion against Judaism, not a
Who gives a shit? Who gives a shit about this? How does that mean we need to give them money, Dinesh? Like, where's the art in any of this?
manifestation
There's
of
none.
it. You are maintaining that
It's a
Judaism...
rebellion against Christianity. The reason that these people groups become so ensconced in progressive ideology is because they reject Jesus Christ as their foundation. That is Islam, that is Judaism, and from my view, that is also many sects of Protestantism, which are non-Trinitarian. The reason they have to adopt those things is because the theology is so bad, they have to fill in the gaps with other
All right.
things.
So what we're saying here, and this is a point of agreement, we are dealing with a menacing radical secularism that has developed in the world and in the West.
Yes.
The West invented it. The Jews did not invent it. Its authors.
Protestants didn't invent it either.
Was Charles Darwin a Jew?
Yeah, but
was
Protestants
Nietzsche
didn't-
a
the
Jew?
Protestant
Was Heidegger a
Reformation-
Jew?
The Protestant Reformation paved the way for progressive ethics. I agree with that.
I agree with
But
it too.
Our modern state was pretty much crafted by the Zionists, right? I don't need to read you the fucking history of the Hollywood, do I? Do I? I think we can all know it without getting me another strike on YouTube. Exactly who started all of Hollywood, all of the media. Every name you hear for some reason is from there. So who shoved all this down our throats for the past 30, 40 years, 50 years, even further back than that? They've been doing it since it started, and everybody acts like they're shocked now. Oh, no, it's always been this way. Always.
it happened before the great thinkers of progressive enlightenment. The Protestant Reformation paved the way, but it happened before these things came to fruition. By the way, many of these Protestant heresies are considered by both Catholics and Orthodox to be Judaizing heresies for a reason. Same reason that we consider Jews to be heretics, not ethnic Jews. Remember, I'm making the distinction now between people who believe in Judaism theologically versus people who are just ethnic Jews. I don't have any problem with Arabs, and I don't have any problem with ethnic Jews. That has nothing to do with anything.
Right.
My point is, you can't look me in the eye and say that Protestant heresies led to the embrace of progressive ideology, but that Jewish heresies don't. And I can prove it to you. If you reject Jesus Christ, who is the source of all truth, what do you end up with? What do you end up with?
Let me say that even here in America, over the past 30 years,
This is not an answer to my question.
it is an answer.
Never
It
is.
is an answer. I have had a fair amount of experience with Orthodox Jews who have been fans of mine. They come up to me at events. Now, why are they fans of mine?
Because they haven't seen this debate yet, probably.
They socially, politically, morally, they are to the right of me. They are totally against abortion. They are totally against LGBTQ.
So are Muslims.
And not only do they say it, they actually live it.
So do
I can't-
Muslims.
hold on. So are the Muslims, correct. But what I'm getting at is that to argue that Judaism is itself responsible for secularism is stupid, because the most religious Jews are not secular at all.
Great.
They
then,
are
then to argue, let me
on
show
the
you how...
moral issue.
There you have it, straight from Dinesh's mouth. That's why we got to give them all that money every year, because they're not responsible for something. I guess I don't know. It never makes any sense. So I can never even tell when they're trying to make a point. Like, was that the point? Where's the point? Where is any point in this? It's just meandering, and pivots. Every time you get somewhere, ask him a question, he'll just pivot, tell you a story about George Washington, and then fucking just take you on this little trip down a road that no one wants to go on. Ever.
Issues.
I'm going
If
to
we
show you
were-
how stupid this is. Then
Oh,
to
yeah?
argue that Protestantism is responsible for progressivism is stupid. Because out in the hallway, I met some Protestants, and they were really fucking based.
No. Hold on.
That is literally the
That's not-
stupidest
this
thing
is-
you've said tonight
this is
out
pure
of many
sophistry.
stupid things.
This is pure
it's
sophistry.
not sophistry.
Well, let me tell you why. Because what you do with an analogy is you misstate the analogy. If you could find me a group of devout,
Because his analogies don't make any sense. The side murdering the children got to be just the guy who slaps his wife around in his analogy. And the people who did nothing to us, they're the kid touchers. They're the ones, doing all that kind of shit. His analogies are just so backwards. It's like you have to make the good guys be this one side that reality doesn't show us. Reality doesn't make it so, right?
evangelical Christians
Yeah.
and say, these devout evangelical Christians who go to church on Wednesday, they go to church on Sunday, they are really into it and serious about their faith, but they happen to also support trans surgeries, they support abortion, I would be shocked, because I would say no. If someone is devout and serious about their faith, they're not going to support those things. They're going to be solid on the moral issues.
So Episcopalians are not
don't interrupt
solid
me.
in their faith?
So
They don't
I
believe
just
in it?
told you
One
that
sec.
Orthodox Jews are very solid on the moral issues, and they are not part of secular degeneracy.
Yeah, but this is
And then
crazy.
you switch the analogy.
Then why do they allow all the murders of children over there? Why do they allow all the transgender stuff over there? Why do they allow you to import all the kid touchers who want to escape prosecution in their countries? Why do they not allow all these things? And you get to call them the good guys still. You just keep asserting that they're the good guys in spite of the reality that we keep putting in front of you. And you just keep, yeah, but they're the good guys. Why are they the good guys?
And give me a generic Protestant.
I'm going to repeat it to you verbatim to make sure I got it right before I respond.
Okay.
I'm going to steel man the position and so that there's no doubt this is not a straw man.
Okay.
You are saying to me, there are Orthodox Jews who are just super based, Andrew. They don't like abortion. They don't like LGBTQ. They don't like any of that degenerate stuff. Right?
Right.
Okay. Can we agree that there's lots and lots of Protestants, including Episcopalians, who you say are responsible for the current state of progressive Enlightenment principles being enacted in this nation, who are super based and also don't like abortion,
Right.
and they also don't like LGBTQ. They don't like any of that. True or false?
Yeah, and those Protestants, hold on, those Protestants
Perfect.
fall into the Assemblies of God. They fall into the Baptist denominations, very different from the Unitarians, the Anglicans, the Presbyterians, and the Methodists. I mean, the reason
But
people...
you just said, you just got done saying though, now you're in contradiction.
I'm saying that
the
the
second you say Episcopalians are responsible for this, but not some Episcopalians, you're making the same argument with the exception that I would. You're right. Judaism is also a heresy, therefore responsible for the integration of progressive values, especially in Israel, but not all of them. Great. What the hell have we established here? Except that heresies lead to progressive ideology across the board, which is why the church has always been against them.
Heresies should be rejected theologically.
Yes.
But it's possible in a decent society to make moral alliances with people who are heretics but agree with us on certain moral issues.
Agreed.
And so you could find someone in America right now who's an atheist, but they don't think that kids should be killed in the womb. They don't support euthanasia or infanticide. They don't support trans surgeries. And you would say, guess what? You know what, buddy? You're on the right side. Now, are you going to heaven? No. Theologically, you are on the outside.
But is it immoral not to
but-
support them?
Do you notice how this never builds to anything or goes in any direction that's going to convince you that we owe Israel a bunch of money? Like I'm just baffled here. I'm baffled. I can't tell if I had a stroke or if my gummy hasn't worn off from last night. How is this guy an intellectual? Nothing he has said has convinced me anything in his direction. And everything he has said has sounded like, you know the word I'm not supposed to say. You know what it sounds like. Like, what am I missing here?
Is it immoral not to support them?
What I'm saying
Is it immoral not to support that same group you just said we could make an alliance with if we so chose? Would it be immoral for us not to?
It would be immoral to reject them when they want to be in alliance with you on the side of good. It would be like the pro-life movement deciding that anybody who's going to hell cannot be allowed in the pro-life movement. It would be wrong and immoral to do that.
Why is it just always assumed that that's the good side, though? Like, it's in spite of what you're watching with your eyes, like the reality you're seeing, like from your peepers, right? What would make that the good side? He just keeps assigning it that, and it's just like the brainwashing has worked good on him. He's like the Winter Soldier up in here. You can't keep calling them the good side without telling me something good they've done. Like, just name something good that they've done. Other than, shoving all these crazy things into our society to where we're just as messed up as them. What have they done that makes them the good side and Iran the bad side? Like, what did they, like, I can name a lot more shit they've done than anything Iran has ever done to us. Anybody they kill is usually because people were trying to fuck with them in their country. Like, why are they the bad guy? Just because, the people who make our movies, those guys, because they make them the bad guys in every movie, that makes them bad? Because some politician tells us, oh, no, they're our enemy, and Israel, they're our ally, even though they steal our plans, over and over again. They sell them, they fucking, start nuclear programs with them, and then lie to us about that nuclear program after they stole the uranium from us too. Like all these things that just a politician he just ignored all that and act like, yeah, they don't have to do nothing. They're our best ally because they give, I go on vacations there, so they're our best ally. And we just all have to bite that and just say, well, I guess the politician said it, so it's true. Fuck that politician. Fuck him. I don't care. You're not our ally just because some dickhead tells me so. Right? You got to show me something. Show me, what do we get on paper that would excuse away you stealing a nuclear program from us and then trying to convince us we have to go fight a war from this other country trying to do the same thing and not even stealing it from us? Like, why is all this? Make it make sense.
Because these are allies on a good cause. It doesn't matter if they have bad opinions on their socialists and other things. You don't support them in the socialism, but you support them in the area that they are on the side of good.
Got it.
And that's what I'm saying about Israel.
And this makes complete and total sense to me. So if I'm breaking down your position and I'm getting it totally correct, you're saying that if it is the case that, let's say there's a group of atheists who oppose abortion, you're not going to reject that help because the greater good is to stop abortion.
You would not reject their help in the pro-life cause, correct?
Right.
Yes, correct.
Okay, so it would actually be immoral in that context to reject that help.
Correct.
Got it. Now let's get an equivalent analogy.
Just breaking that down right there, just the logic from that first part of the analogy. Is Israel not the one that's big on the, being pro-abortion? Are they not those people? Look in their country and then look in the Muslim country. So just from that, in Andrew's worldview and how he supports that above everything, he was wanting to support Trump because he was he thought he was going to be the best way to keep abortion limited in America. So from that metric, Andrew could never support Israel because they're the ones that are supporting that and causing those infants to be murdered. So this cannot go good for Dinesh. And I don't even know if he did enough research to know that.
Yes. For how it is, that if we decide that we're not going to send billions of dollars to Israel, we're not going to send a single soldier over to help them at any time because the United States electorate doesn't want it. And if it is the case that we no longer want any Israeli influence in our government whatsoever, why would that be immoral?
Well, it would be a wrong decision, both tactically.
Why would it be immoral?
It would be immoral because what we are ultimately doing is we are taking an ally that is on our side and is kicking the ass of the bad guys in a very dangerous neighborhood.
They're all bad guys.
No, they're not all.
No, that's the whole point. He's been brainwashed to think that this side is the good guys. Those guys are the bad guys. And so they're a good guy. You got to help them. Got to help them because they're fighting bad guy. Why are either of them bad or good to us? We're indifferent to them. They're fucking warlords in a foreign land. Do what you do. Do what you do. We'll deal with the loser. How about with the winner? How about that? Like, that's the way we should handle this.
All bad guys on this issue. The Islamic project is global caliphate. There's no equivalent Jewish project to that. The Jews are fighting that, and they're doing it with great effectiveness.
So then tell me this. Let's just play pretend.
So in other words,
I'll
I'm
grant
not
it.
saying that we have democratically, we could decide by the majority of people saying we don't want to have anything to do with it.
Let's dive right in.
And we have every right to do that.
Let's dive right in. Let's find out if this is true, if this is logically true. Let us play pretend.
Okay.
Tomorrow, all of these Islamic nations right around Israel unite and they crush it and they wipe Israel out in a single day. Let's just say in this hypothetical.
Yeah. Okay.
What happens then to the United States? What happens to the United States?
What happens to the United States now is that you will have created what Islam has long dreamed of, which is a restoration of we haven't had an Islamic.
Why do I give a shit about the Islamic Caliphate though?
Yeah.
Why do I care? The
Islamic Caliphate is in
destroyed
Dallas.
Israel.
The Islamic Caliphate is all over Texas. It is not only taken
That's
over.
immigration, though. We can fix immigration whether or not you have a Jewish state or not.
Hold on.
Swipe of the pen and they're gone. Swipe of the pen. Thomas Massey.
Many of these Muslims have been here for decades. This project has been going on. Muslims came to Detroit in the 1920s. It was the anti-Semitism of Henry Ford, where he said,
Dinesh,
I want to go and bring a bunch of Muslims over here.
You got to stay on topic. Israel's gone now in this hypothetical in a single day. They just steamroll it. They take all the land.
Right.
Okay. They are reforming a caliphate, let's even say.
And you're like, who cares?
Well, yeah, when I go down to my toolbox to grab the wrench to wrench on my fucking car, I care about this. Why?
Okay, why would you care if the same thing happened to Alaska?
Because those are my countrymen.
Oh yeah. Why would you care if that happened to a state in your own fucking country? Because that would be an act of war, Dinesh. Because we'd probably be bombing the shit out of somebody. We're not just gonna let them take our part of our country. What kind of fucking intellectual is this?
Well, those are your countrymen, but you still can go to your toolbox and you can work in your garage. And if Alaska's off the map,
No, that would have drastic. That would have drastic, direct repercussions upon me if it was the case that
His child would probably be conscribed to go fight in that war, Dinesh. I would think that would affect him somewhat.
one of the states of the country that I live in was steamrolled by Islam. On the other hand, I think that there would be far less drastic and direct consequences were it the case that, let's just say, Israel steamrolled by Islam. What I want to know specifically, if it was, what the hell does the mechanic in the garage down the street, what does that do to him? Specifically, what?
Well, in your view of the world, if it is outside the geographic border of America,
That's
the
not answering
toolbox
the
guy
question,
has
dude.
nothing to do with it.
Answer
Would you say the
question.
same about Mexico?
I want you to answer the question I ask instead of the obfuscation.
The world is a...
Yeah, if Denmark took over Mexico, I think things would get a lot better. Right? What are you fucking talking about? I don't like you're using that as an example. Somebody we should treasure. Yeah, okay.
much more
Yeah,
dangerous
the world's
place.
a dangerous place, dangerous neighborhoods
don't
in the
care.
world. I know. It's
doesn't matter.
terrible. That's all rhetoric. Answer the question I asked. Forget the rhetoric. Give me the logic. Let's pretend, seriously pretend, game out the hypothetical with me. Israel's destroyed in a single day by its Islamic neighbors. Okay, that's what happens. It's gone, let's just say. How the hell does that negatively affect the United States? What is it going to do to the average citizen here if that happens, even if Muslims are getting super uppity and want their caliphate?
Okay.
What?
All
What does
right.
it do?
Let's play it out.
Let's.
Okay,
Let's
so
do
number
that.
one, let's assume that a juggernaut launched out of, let's say, Iran and Qatar takes Israel.
Uh-huh.
And not only that, but now all the other Gulf kingdoms are intimidated, and so they submit to a single unified force. Let's just call it the United States of Islam.
Okay.
And that's the whole Middle East.
Okay.
It is fantastically rich. It has nuclear weapons, and it has a suicidal and genocidal
You mean all of our allies, like Turkey? Like, what do you? They're our allies. I don't think they're going to turn on us.
ideology that says we love death, we don't like life. These guys, right, are now going to start bankrolling the Islamic project in America to a degree that you can hardly imagine. So we are now talking about the fact, and let's just game it out. You want to game it out? Let's game it out.
Okay.
Let's write a full Hollywood movie out of it. Why not? Because none of this has ever had any bearing on reality. Nothing like this has ever happened. Nothing to indicate that it ever would. They can't get along with each other either. Like you're acting like the two different warring factions of Islam are going to just fall in love with each other or something. They're still not going to want to fucking no. That's just not based in reality. This is like some fantasy novel he's got written in his head.
Every politician in Texas, by and large, if you want to get their attention, just write them a check for $10,000 and they will call you within a week. Within a week to hear you out and what's on your mind.
Sure.
Now imagine an Islamic regime, 2 billion people in the world with almost infinite resources, offering every U.S. congressman $100 million in their pack if they vote on the side of Islam. What percentage of Democrats do you think would say no? I would submit it's about 1 or 2%. What percentage of
most
Republicans would
Republicans
say
would say
no?
no.
I submit it's about 10%.
Okay, great.
My son-in-law included.
Okay.
But what we're basically talking about is a buyout of the United States of America, Inc. This is on the table. The Muslims say they're going to do it. They are doing it. We would fortify
And all that
them
stands in their
Why would all those Israeli people sell all of their all of their, what they use to maintain the little influence they still have? Why would they sell that? They're not going to sell it. They still own it. Though you're talking about the people who don't own it and aren't doing awful things to us, this hypothetical that they're going to start once they get it away from the real bad guys who are doing all these awful things. Why do you think all these problems in America are the way they are? We've had Zionism in our life for like 60 years, and it has not been a good, fruitful 60 years. We've got to get it out. And once it's out, then we can move forward as a country. But as long as it's here, there is no way forward.
Way is 10 million
so
Jews.
You started out.
All that stands in the way of all of the Muslim world uniting, even though there's nukes there now, even though they have a shared value to destroy Israel now, is 10 million Jews that are sitting. That's the stupidest thing that I ever heard. Here's actually much more likely. Hang on. I said let's game it out.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I'll game it out.
Let's game it out.
I'll game it out a different way.
Okay.
They destroy Israel in a single day. Isn't it equally possible that they open up relations with the United States and the rest of the West because they want to enter into massive trade agreements? Because it is the case that they want their own people groups to thrive, because it is the case that they are geographically landlocked away from Europe for the most part, and definitely the United States.
And they've tried this many times and always been disturbed because of Israel. Israel always is the factor that stops us from getting into any kind of trade agreements with anyone over there. Wouldn't it be nice if they were gone? I like this analogy.
Isn't it the case that we could then get oil for cheaper?
Yeah.
Isn't it then the case that there's all sorts of trade agreements we could have that we no longer have to sanction them on because we don't have to have this protectorate there? That's equally logically possible. The problem that you have here, I'm not saying that this should happen. I'm pointing out an analogy that you are making the determinative kind of quality here that 10 million Jews are stopping this nightmare scenario, and it's absurd. That's not what's actually going on. What's actually going on is the United States military is what's stopping that nightmare scenario, not 10 million Jews in the United States. And if we had mass...
Maybe some of the nukes that they stole from us, that might be scaring them away a little bit too. But again, they did steal them from us.
Migration of Christians to that region for their own holy land, for them to have their own holy relics, for them to have the Holy Land back to them, that region would be infinitely safer than it is right this second.
So I think here we've reached the point where the core naivete of your position, which is that the Muslims are just like the rest of us, comes to the forefront. When the Barbary...
Do they have tails? Do they have tails? I've heard some people do have tails. I've always been curious.
Pirates were menacing American ships, and Jefferson sent ambassadors. Jefferson's question to the ambassadors was, go talk to the ambassador in Tripoli and ask them, what is their beef with America? They've been fighting with Europe for a long time. We haven't done anything to them. Why are they doing this to us? And the ambassador, Abdul Rahman, replied, he goes, it has nothing to do with you. We are doing this because it asks us to do it in the Quran. You are an infidel, and our job is to fight, defeat, and destroy the infidels. This is in the Quran. It is the actual constitution of the world of Islam.
Great.
So when you say, these are guys who want coffee shops and tall buildings and Trump Tower.
Do you know Scientologists? They teach that you have these little micro things in your blood, and that's what makes you either like be a bad person or a good person or whatever, and like they can detect them. And like if once you get too many of those, you get in trouble. So what is this guy's point? Like people believe some wacky shit. So whatever. They ain't doing anything to us. You're just trying to convince us that these people who have done nothing to us are going to do something to us one day because, you know, they worship a book that's different than yours. Well, they both worship a book that's different than ours. So it really doesn't make much of a difference. And they both kind of do have some bad ideas in both of their books. So why should we support either of them? Like, I'm not going to determine which is worse than the other, especially considering one of them hasn't tried to bribe us. They haven't tried to like steal our secrets and then sell them to our enemies, or steal our like nuclear stuff and make their own nuclear program and then lie to us about it. So I'm going to go off of the facts and the reality in front of me and not just your opinion about what those other people would do to us if they could.
And high tech, yes. But I would say, and here is where you would say that the Muslims who want those things are actually the Muslims least attentive to the Quran. These are the Muslims who are actually less Islamic.
And less
the
inbred.
true Muslims,
And less inbred.
The true Muslims see all of America as the house of war. So the idea that you suggest, which is that, gee, we're landlocked, we need to make some trade deals, is a complete misunderstanding of the nature of Islam. And this is part of the reason that you see Israel as an unnecessary add-on.
I just want to make sure the naivete is on my part, that you believe the only thing stopping this future is 10 million Jews who are in that region.
No.
I just want to make sure that is the actual position.
I'm not saying, look, you gave me a hypothetical.
Yeah.
And you said, if Israel is obliterated, the scenario I'm describing doesn't require the obliteration of Israel. It simply requires the complete mobilization of those countries. I think what Trump is doing is he's playing a game in which he's trying to set one Muslim off against another. He's like, listen, let me see
This is actually perfect. So that if it is the case, Dinesh, that this does not require the obliteration of Israel, for Muslims to do this right this second, if they do begin acting this way, and I agree with you that they likely will, then I could see how Christians would have an obligation to intervene, especially in our own interests, because now they're coming here to kill us. Great. We would need to do something about that. But you see how you carefully took Israel out of that equation and 10 million Jews are out of that equation? What's the obligation morally that we have to go help them right this second, when you just made the claim that without them there, or with them there, this can still happen, even without their obliteration?
Well, let's extend out the same analogy to see why what I'm saying makes total sense.
Okay.
See, maybe he just mystified everybody because he does use a bunch of big words like the not so erudite type debaters, but he can't like link these ideas in his head. They don't make any sense. I don't even understand how you call someone an intellectual when they do this poor of a job, like articulating what they're trying to tell you.
Let's envision a scenario where it's not Israel that is overrun, but Australia, Canada, Great Britain, France, and Germany are overrun by the Muslims.
With their immigration policy?
That's right, with their immigration policy, but not just immigration policy, massively supported by terrorist infiltration, money coming out of Qatar and other Islamic countries.
How did the terrorists infiltrate?
And the Zionist government, too. Don't forget that. Don't forget that they have a Zionist government, too. So the people letting in all the immigrants and taking their side and making it into a surveillance state are Zionists. So you want to tell me why we should elect any more Zionists here? Can you tell me that? That would be a good question to get answered. Why would you elect another Zionist, seeing what the Zionists in Europe have done? Right? Are you wanting to be like Europe? Thomas Massey's starting to look really good, ain't he? Ain't he? Considering all the data centers that we're going to have to live next to now, that I don't think you know that they're not really there to just make ChatGPT run faster for you. That's not what they're there for. They're there to surveil you the minute you leave your house, maybe even inside your house. So just be aware of that. Be aware of the thought crimes you're going to be guilty of in the future. Just
without the mass migration, Dinesh.
No, many of them are already in the country.
Because of mass migration, Dinesh.
Because of original mass migration. Yes, I agree.
Because what we've done is this is suicidal empathy, but that has nothing at all to do. If we have good border policy and we have good immigration policy locking Islam out of the United States and Western world, which I would love to see, right? This problem goes away regardless, regardless of us helping Israel or not.
Number one, many of them are already here. Number two, the Muslim Brotherhood has made it really clear in its memoranda that we don't actually want to focus on bin Laden types with long beards and white robes.
They want to focus on the womb. They want to focus on the womb.
We want American-born kids, dude, and American-born converts to take the vanguard. We need Islamic lawyers born in America. So unless you have some plan for getting out 30 million Muslims who are legal and U.S. citizens, by the way, you're talking nonsense. You're just hypothetically saying if we close the border, the problem will go away.
We're not the UK, Dinesh.
We're not the UK.
We have very few actual Muslims here in comparison to the population total size. We have a lot of Hispanics here in comparison to the population of total size, especially illegally.
Let in by Zionists, by the way.
If we were right this second to curtail off immigration from Islamic nations, this problem does go away. It's not usually the fourth, fifth generation Islamic kids who by that time, by the way, have usually left Islam. who are the problem with this. What it is it's usually within the first couple of generations, or people coming in on H-1Bs or coming in with different visas who conduct those terror operations. We've already absorbed Islamists. We've already absorbed a few million of them, but there's not that many of them. That's one. And two, over several generations of integration, that ideology, many of them moved to Christianity, they moved to secular ethics, they move to the general kind of civic ideology of the nation that they're in, if they're that small of a minority. So I don't think we would really have to worry.
And they have one network, Al Jazeera, right? They have one network. How many networks are owned by the other team? Oh, every other one. Every other one is owned by a Zionist, right? So they have much more influence. The entire propaganda apparatus. Every movie you see has a Muslim bad guy. Everyone. And everyone's made by like a Zionist. So for reach, being even like, it doesn't even matter how many people you have or any of that. That doesn't matter as much as the reach that you have just with the propaganda. And I'm tired of pretending like it's not coming from one place and going in one direction, because it is, and everyone can see it. You're just not allowed to say it on YouTube for some reason.
Worry too much about terror attacks.
Almost everything you're saying is factually untrue.
Which thing?
Okay. Number one, while it is true that European immigrants and Jews, hold on. No. I mean, it's my way of talking. There are other immigrant groups, including Jews, that have assimilated, that no longer practice Judaism. This is least true of Muslims in America. Why? Because the mosque in Islam does not fulfill the same purpose as a church.
Yeah, but that's a half-truth, because...
It's a half-truth.
Yeah, so it is in fact the case. Do you agree with me that by the third generation in an Islamic family, the children by that time are actually way more likely to leave that faith? One leaves for every one that joins, and usually the people who join, right, you have another one who leaves. It's a revolving door, which is declining. It is declining in the United States, not increasing.
You are missing a really important counter trend, just as true in America as in Europe.
Okay.
The children and the third and fourth generation of Muslims are far more likely to become terrorists and radical Muslims than even the first generation or the Muslims in the Muslim world. Why? Because in the West, we have a crisis of identity. Like, who am I? I'm in a meaningless life. I have a meaningless society. So Islam provides for people in the West that sense of higher purpose, motivation. You can be a soldier for Allah. If you go tell that to some guy in India or Pakistan, he has no identity crisis. He's not going to be talking to this bullshit. If you tell him, listen, we all need to go pray in the middle of the street, he'll be like, are you insane? We don't do this anywhere in the Muslim world, but we do it in London. We do it in Dallas. We do it in America, because the American Muslims have this sense of identity, and they are much more likely to see themselves as fighting in a higher cause than some ordinary Muslim on the Muslim street in Jordan.
Yeah, but when we're talking about
that's true.
We're talking about domestic terrorism. Most of it's not even conducted by Islam. Let's be real. And by the way, the ones who are here already, if we cut off and curtail any more from coming in, this cross-generational problem does eventually go away. It has to. You're not having any more. You're not having any more come in. The ideology is terrible, spreading in Christian nations. Never been good at it in the West unless you import it. The thing here that's really funny, though, is that out of all of this, you still haven't given me an ought for why it is that Christians need to support Israel. And with all of the tangential policy that we've gone over, which I think much of this we can find some kind of even ground. Like you, for instance, I'm sure you would love to stop Islam from immigrating to Western nations. I'm sure you would love that, right?
Right.
Okay, I would too. So we have like an olive branch there. Neither one of us wants to see ethnic Jews persecuted, destroyed, hurt, anything like that, right? We can agree on that too.
Right.
And we don't want to see that happen to Arabs either. We can agree on that too.
Yeah.
So we're talking about ideology here. So when we're talking about and we're discussing ideologies and these ideas, I'm still going to take you right back to the original point. And the original point is that Judaism leads to the same type of secular progressive poison ideology. The Jewish faith itself does this. Just like it is the case that the heretical Protestants do the exact same thing. And I would say that that is 10 times more damaging even than if we had 10 times the amount of domestic terror attacks we have right now from Islam.
Let's test your proposition that Judaism itself gives rise to secular degeneracy.
Sure.
You've had Jewish communities in many.
Can we just look at Hollywood? Just go look at the city of Hollywood. Just go to Hollywood and see if that kind of mentality where, it's pretty accepted there that, Zionism runs this town. So just go look there and see if you think that's a clean town or if you think that's a degenerate hellhole. Oh, I'll wait.
Many parts of the world over many, many centuries.
Like Israel?
No, I'm talking about the diaspora.
Okay.
And I'm talking about through the Middle Ages, through the end of the Roman Empire, in the time of the Renaissance and the Reformation. Now, you would expect, if Judaism is the problem, that all the secular degeneracy would emerge by itself inside of these tribal Jewish communities. You'd expect, for example, that when Shakespeare talks about the Merchant of Venice, the Jews would be like having sex with a dog, or they would be, killing off their kids, or they would be engaging in all kinds of moral degeneracy. You get the exact opposite picture. The Jews maintained.
Oh, because they just have sex with children. It's not up to the dogs yet, right? So they're working their way up to Dinesh's little analogy here, I guess. But they are having sex with children. That's what the Epstein files were about. And that's what that whole tourist industry where they're just moving people to Israel just to evade their sex crime charges. Just like Tom Alexandrovich happened here. And we can't get him back. And no one's really trying because Israel's our greatest ally. So I guess they're allowed to come try and have sex with our children because they're a good ally. You tell me how that makes sense. Please, please, please. What about his country being a good ally, which you still haven't told me why they're a good ally. But even if they were, what would enable him to come try and have sex with our children? Like, why are those two related? Why would it even... But for some reason, we can't get any kind of updates on his case. Somehow he just disappeared back to Israel, and there's no more talk of him being prosecuted. So I'd like to know what happened. What happened? What happened?
Not only their tribal identity, but a strict regimen of laws and codes and commandments. Shylock is upset with his daughter because she marries a Christian. But from Shylock's point of view, that is not moral laxity. That is a rigorous enforcement of Jewish orthodoxy. So the secular degeneracy emerges in the West outside of the Jewish community, then it penetrates and pollutes the Jewish community, and you're trying to blame Judaism for it.
No, I'm not.
Cool story, bro. Cool story.
I'm telling you that all heretical ideologies lead to secular progressive values because they don't hold the truth of Christ. If you don't hold the truth of Christ, you cannot know the truth, period. You, for instance, Dinesh, I'll give you an example of how it is you don't hold truth. You claim, for instance, that you would say that Jesus Christ isn't a Christian, right?
Jesus Christ can no more be a Christian than
Marx can be a Marxist.
Or Buddha could be a Buddhist, or Confucius could be a Confucian.
Yeah,
it is actually impossible.
Great.
If you start a church, I would think you would at least be the honorary member of that religion. Like, you could be an honorary Christian since it's kind of his name. His name's on the building. I think he could be honorary.
God omnipotent and omniscient.
Is God omnipotent?
Is God omnipotent and omniscient?
Yes.
Okay, great. Then that would mean that he saw Jesus' crucifixion at the same time that he made the earth. Is that the case?
Yes, that is the case.
Okay, well then great. And what did he determine at the very second the earth was made? Then if he saw the beginning of time and the end of time,
yes,
as Jesus Christ was being crucified, what was Jesus Christ's purpose?
To come as the Redeemer of the world.
And is Jesus Christ God?
Yes.
Then Jesus Christ was a Christian. Thank you. That's what happens when you don't hold
This
truth.
is called philosophical horseshit.
How? Refute it.
I'll refute it.
Go ahead.
Okay. I'll refute it.
I can't wait.
It won't.
Okay. I'm going to apply your same logic
Okay.
to let me think of how it.
Beavis and Butthead. Use Beavis and Butthead. I want you to use that one.
What's
Yeah.
the best way to
Think hard, man.
unfold this? Well, let me get to what I think you're doing.
Uh-huh.
The Bible operates on more than one level. In fact, the early Christians spoke about the fourfold way to read the Bible. The Bible should be read literally or historically, number one,
Okay.
metaphorically or symbolically, 2.
Okay.
Morally, 3. And eschatologically or prophetically, 4. And the early Christians emphasized that all 4 readings are simultaneous. Neither refutes the other.
I'm seeing why he couldn't argue his way out of going to prison for that that campaign violation he committed. He's terrible at this. He couldn't convince me of shit.
So there is the historical Jesus. He came into the world just like the flood actually happened. And Noah really did build an ark.
How is this refuting my logic?
Here, I'll tell you why. Because you then go, is God omnipotent?
Yeah.
Isn't it the case that the ark represents Christ? Yes, it does.
No.
Metaphorically, the ark does represent
Can you
Christ.
just give me my-
Metaphorically, the ark was foreseen as a
This is
progenitor.
prattle, dude. Look, can
Prattle.
you repeat back my argument
Okay.
and then refute it?
Okay, I'm refuting it thus.
No, repeat it first.
Okay. Your argument is that God foresaw that Jesus would be the Redeemer of the world from the beginning of the world.
Because God's non-temporal, he's omnipotent, he's omniscient.
Correct.
So if that's the case, and Jesus Christ is God, right?
Yes.
Then how could it possibly be that he, as he saw Jesus' crucifixion, knew his purpose for the world and heralded it with every single prophet he had, that his purpose in life, God's, wasn't Christianity? And he wasn't a Christian if that was the entire purpose.
Oh, right. And he wasn't a Christian. See, so that's that
See,
last
honorary
quick
member.
move that you make.
Told you, honorary member.
That's completely fallacious.
How's it
God could have
fallacious?
seen from the beginning of the world,
Yeah.
I will take an itinerant Jewish rabbi who was born a Jew named Yeshua, whose dad was a Jew named Yosef, and his mom was a Jew named Miriam,
So?
who kept all the Jewish rites and celebrated all the Jewish festivals and taught as a Jew coming to save the Jews first and foremost, and then later allowing other non-Jews to be grafted in.
And then started a church to go and teach, an improved version of this silly religion he got out of. Right? The one when you start your own church, I'm thinking you're not still in that church. They're kind of territorial like that.
Bible couldn't be more clear about this. Jesus was the
Like
Jewish
Crips and Bloods.
savior of the world.
This literally doesn't
Now,
refute my
in
argument
Antioch-
at all. It's
It
not even
does refute your
contending with it.
argument. It
If
does
God
refute
is
your argument
omnipotent
because
and God is omniscient, and God saw that the purpose for himself was to die on the cross for our sins at the very beginning of time, his purpose was Christendom, and he was a Christian. How could it be anything else? It's not even logically possible for anything else to occur. You say you
It is logically
you can't call
possible.
Marx a Marxist. What if Marx was omniscient and omnipotent and knew that he was going to institute Marxism? Could we call him a Marxist then? Could we call him a Marxist then, Dinesh?
Well, the problem
Could
with,
we call him a Marxist then?
if Marx identified and said, I'm a Marxist, I'm going to start this movement in which I am its first leader.
Right from the beginning
and
of
that did
time.
not happen with Jesus.
Perfect.
Did it?
What?
Did Jesus say, guess what? I am a Christian and I'm starting this new religion called Christianity.
Hey, was Rod Carew Jewish? He was a black guy, but he died as a Jewish man, right? That's how he was buried, as a Jewish man. So why is it you can't convert your religion? I don't really understand this. Like, why, if you start your own religion, why would that not be like you're part of that religion now? I just kind of go hand in hand.
And everybody who follows it now is
Ooh,
going to
the
take my
comments.
name. Jesus did not do any of
He
that.
didn't need to.
He didn't
because
need to, but he
fulfilled-
didn't do it, right?
He fulfilled the purpose. If you fulfill the purpose for which you yourself foresaw
Oh, no.
and heralded would happen, Jesus Christ knows that he is God.
He was
knows
Jewish.
it. He knows what the fulfillment of his own ideology is going to be, and that is Christianity. Yet you still say he's not a Christian, even though the Jews reject him. That's insane. He's omniscient. He's omnipotent. He's non-temporal. He sees the end and the beginning
You're using-
simultaneously.
you're
you
using-
can't refute this.
I am refuting
How?
it. Because you are using omniscience to get around logic.
2-minute
And
warning.
here's the logic.
Omniscience
Let me lay out the logic. Let me lay
using
out the logic.
omniscience to get around
Jesus, hang on. Let's just pursue this for a minute. Let's think for a little bit.
I'm thinking.
Jesus is a Christian.
Uh-huh.
Okay? Jesus
Yeah.
is a Christian is a statement of the type A is B. Right? A is B. Jesus is a Christian. Now, in logic, if you say A is B, it must follow everything that is true of B is also true of A. Otherwise, A can't be B. A is B means whatever you say about B is true of A. Now let's look at a bunch of things that are true of Christians.
Okay.
Okay? Do we follow Christ? Isn't that the meaning of Christianity? Yes. Did Jesus follow himself? No. We were.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. What do you mean, no? I follow myself. Like when I get up every day, that voice in my head, that guides me. That tells me what to do. I follow that voice in my head. When I come to make my stream, I'm making it because that voice is telling me, get your lazy ass out of bed. Stream time. What is he talking about? You do follow yourself. You more than anybody else in life, you follow yourself.
Worship
Then who
Christ.
did? Hang on.
Unless you're an NPC. Then you just kind of follow what Fox News tells you. Or CNN.
Hold on, let me finish my thought.
Who did he follow?
Jesus followed the Father. We follow.
Jesus is himself. part of
Jesus
the
is
concept of
himself the Father, but
Just to be
Jesus.
sure.
So who
also-
did he follow then?
Just to be sure we hear the last thought.
Who the hell was he following?
Do we
He's
as
doing
was he
terrible.
Christians
following
hold on?
Pharisaical
Just-
Jews?
Do
just
we
to be-
as Christians
Just to hear the point.
do we as Christians worship Jesus?
Of course.
Yes.
Yeah.
Did Jesus worship himself? No.
Who did
do
he?
we
who
as
did
hold
Jesus
on?
pray to in the garden?
Just to let Dinesh finish his point.
If he's a Trinity, why wouldn't he be worshiping himself? Like he is the Father and the Son. So if he's doing something as the Son, wouldn't he have to be worshiping himself? He's not going to worship some different God.
Number 3,
Yeah.
we as Christians are in need of salvation and we need a Savior to die for us. Otherwise, we can't be saved. Did Jesus need a Savior to die for him so that he could be
No,
saved?
he was the
No.
Savior. Yeah.
Right. So now what you're doing is in repeating back to me what I'm saying is you are reluctantly agreeing that the statement A equals B cannot be true because I've just told you 3 things that are true of B that cannot.
So can the Trinity be true? Is the Trinity not true? Is that what you're saying, Dinesh? Are you being a bad Christian? I think they all have to agree to that. I don't know. I'm not up to date on the handshakes and all. I don't know.
Not be true of A.
Okay, so let me just make sure I got this correct. We'll see if this actually holds. If this actually holds logical muster or not.
Okay.
Okay. So let's start with this. Jesus Christ, you say, is not a Christian. He's a Jew, right?
Right.
Okay, got it.
Historically.
Right? He incarnates as a Jewish man.
Right.
Okay, so there's no dispute there, right?
Right.
Was his ideology Jewish?
His ideology was Jewish, yes.
So why did he die for our sins?
Because he was sent on a divine mission to do that.
Yeah, but wait, don't the Jews say that he wasn't? So he's kind of breaking from that religion right there, isn't he? Wouldn't that be a break from the Jewish religion if you're thinking you're a Messiah and they're saying you can't be? I would think that would be a break.
By who?
And to do that,
By
as
who?
He was sent by the God of the Old Testament, the God the Father, the God who chose the Jews, chose Jesus to come out of that Jewish line.
And who is he dying for?
And start a new and improved religion? Huh. Why would God do that? You've already admitted he's omnipotent. Why would he want a false religion out there? Or would he want a new and improved religion to fix the monstrosity religion?
And while Jesus died for all of mankind, his ministry was to the Jews. It later took a Paul, it took other apostles.
Do you think that Jesus never intended his ministry to be?
No, I think he did intend
Great,
it.
me too.
I think he did intend it.
So the fulfillment.
But so what?
So the fulfillment of Christ's purpose is Christianity.
No one denies that it is. Yes,
Okay, great.
it is the
So then
fulfillment
if-
of Christ's purpose.
so then if
but
it-
that doesn't mean that Jesus was
Hang
a
on,
Christian.
Dinesh, we'll walk it through.
Okay.
Okay, so if the fulfillment of Christ's purpose
Yeah.
is Christianity,
Yep.
then how can you possibly say, if he has the foreknowledge that that is going to happen, that he wasn't always a Christian? How? Did God change his mind one day?
See, I'm a comic book aficionado, so I do a little better with these because I am really good at like determining powers and how they work and all. This is a little treat I'm sharing with y'all. Yeah, Andrew makes perfect sense here. Dinesh is not understanding how omnipotence works. You know everything at all times. It's just fate is kind of your like background. That's like your operating system, really.
No.
No. So then he always knew.
Hold on. If through the particularity of history,
Yeah.
a Jesus comes, let's just say Jesus came from America.
Okay.
Okay? But he had a ministry for the whole world.
Yeah.
And he foresaw
Yeah.
that the whole world would receive the message.
Yeah.
Would Jesus cease to be American? Would he become a globalist?
No. What
He would remain an American because he was born in America. He was American through and through.
Sean, I think
he
you're
ministered to the Americans.
Sean,
and
Yeah, but was Jesus Jewish through and through when he was changing up how they wanted to do things? Wasn't that kind of what led to him getting killed, basically? Like they didn't like all the shit he was trying to change, right? So it's kind of not really, your analogy makes no sense. And they never do. None of them in this debate have made any sense.
And the fact that his ministry was worldwide and foreseen to be worldwide
Sean.
and known by God to be worldwide does not change one bit the fact that Jesus was, is, and will remain an American. That's a fact, and you know
And
it's
we
true.
agree that
But you
hang
have
on.
to.
So I'm gonna show you.
So wait, hold on. What if he went to another country and then he said, I renounce my allegiance to that country. Now I want to be, let's say, I don't know. Let's make him French, just because they're not going to fight anybody. So let's make him French. Sound safe. He goes there, and now I am a French Messiah. So at that point, would you still be able to say he's American, even though he has renounced that former country that he was at? Because that's kind of what he did. He kind of left that religion and started another religion. I think if you start another religion, you're not really the old religion anymore. I think at that point, it's kind of, you're a new thing. You're a new thing. Luckily, he wasn't a cult leader, but a lot of cult leaders get started that way. That's what's confusing here. It's real confusing.
Show you how stupid this logic is.
Okay,
real
how
quick,
so?
Dinesh. So you say Jesus would remain American, right?
That's right.
And we agree that Jesus remained Jewish, right?
Right.
Okay, great. But the fulfillment of his ideology was Christianity?
Yes.
Okay, great. And we know that from the very beginning of time, he knew the fulfillment for all of mankind was Christianity?
So?
So then, if
that make
the
him a
fulfillment
Christian?
of the entirety of the ideology
All right.
is Christianity, and you have the foreknowledge of that is the way, the truth, and the light, and you have that fulfilled in yourself, he comes and dies, how could his ideology right from the very beginning not have been Christianity if it was the case that he was coming to fulfill Christianity?
Okay. I'm Carl.
You got to give him a lifetime honorary membership at that point. You start the whole church. It's got your name on every building. You got to kind of give him a card that just lasts forever, a lifetime membership card, I would assume.
Marx.
Uh-huh.
I'm born in Germany.
Yeah.
I'm a German.
Yeah.
I foresee that I'm going to write a book, the Communist Manifesto, that is going to be adopted by Russia and China, that will create massive communist societies on my model. And not only am I writing for that purpose, I know that purpose in advance.
So you have omnipotence.
Hold on. Does
or
that make
omniscience?
Marx a Russian or a Chinese? Of course not. He remains a German. He remains someone who has put out a German message, which was then picked up and adopted worldwide, but it doesn't change who he was in the slightest.
Good point. So why do we still need to give all this money to Israel? I'm not understanding. I don't care if Marx is French. It doesn't matter what religion he is, Cambodian, whatever. Who cares? Why do we need to give money to Israel? It's like he just forgets what the purpose of this debate is and just meanders into these pawpaw moments, like Biden moments, basically.
You're acting as if because Jesus knew
What?
in advance.
Wait, hang on. Just want to make sure I get this right.
Okay.
So you're talking about his nationality. So
Well,
because,
I'm just by
because
analogy.
Marx, because Marx knows beforehand that people are going to accept his ideology, he's still a Russian. But
He's
we're
not a
just-
Russian.
Wait, is Marx also omnipotent in this? I'm so confused because this makes no sense.
Marx was a German.
Okay, but I'm pointing this out, right?
know.
Whatever he
Omnipotent
is,
German.
let's just
Yeah,
say,
okay.
he's that thing still. We still agree that Jesus was Jewish and he was born in Bethlehem, right? And we agree to these facts.
And we agree that Jesus subscribed to Judaism. It wasn't just that he was Jewish in the sense that he happened to be born over here.
But he knew that his purpose, he knew that his purpose was Christianity.
He knew that, right? He did. He
Okay.
knew that his purpose was a universal gospel message.
Now,
and that
let's
his
take-
followers would go by the name
Perfect.
of Christians.
Now let's
they would
take,
take his
let's
message.
take the Marx analogy very
Sure.
quickly.
One
Let's
minute.
let us pretend just very quickly that Karl Marx had the gift of foresight and he knew that Marxism was going to lead to capitalism. That was going to be the fulfillment of Marxism. It was always going to lead to capitalism, and he knew it. And that's why he instituted Marxism and allowed Marxism to happen, because he knew it was going to turn into capitalism. Was Marx a capitalist?
No, he would remain a Marxist.
Okay.
Isn't it true?
This is.
Are you
we
saying
do
that?
have to-
Are you saying that if Marx realized that in the unfolding of history, Marxism would let's say Marx foresaw that my Marxist model will somehow be
It's like when Dr. Manhattan had to let the world think that he was the bad guy. Sometimes you just, like, you would still be the good guy, though, right? Because you're doing this for the betterment, because you saw into the future and you knew what was going to happen. Comic books, I'm telling you, they'll help you get through these debates.
changed, and capitalism will replace Marxism.
He only had Marxism there to get to the capitalism. That's what it was there for, to lead to capitalism. Was Marx a Marxist then, or a capitalist?
Well, first of all, the reason your analogy is so dumb is it actually reverses Marx. Marx thought that
I know it reverses Marx.
So
one more time, Marx foresees that Marxism is going to lead to capitalism because he's omniscient, and his ultimate purpose is capitalism and not Marxism, but he knows Marxism will lead to capitalism. Was Marx actually a Marxist or a capitalist?
Well, Marx would be a Marxist.
Here's an easy question. Hey, does the Jewish church usually kill people that are their own members? No. No, I think they're forbidden from doing that. I think that's actually some of the commandments in their scriptures over there, that you're not allowed to do that. So if they did have something to do with that murder, which I'm not pointing any fingers here because I'm not allowed to on YouTube, but if they did, wouldn't that be clear evidence that he's not in the church anymore because they're forbidden from their own religious text from doing that? So I guess he's out of the church, and he just started this other church. So I guess the best way to reference this, I guess, would be that he is a Christian. So I don't know what this matters. I don't know how this proves that we need to give money to Israel. And I don't know why they're wasting time on this, but they are. So there you go. There's a refutation of this silly argument.
Whose followers would be capitalists. It's obviously true because the fact that I foresee.
And you know logic, huh?
Okay, well, I think what we're talking about is history
wouldn't be a capitalist.
versus eschatology.
30 seconds.
But that's my whole point. And
okay.
I think that went off on a side tangent. I did want to address it because I know it's part of
Well,
what it is that
you're
you believe.
using-
But I'll just point this out.
Okay.
We still haven't actually established any moral oughts
Well,
at all for why Christians have to support Jews or Israel, not one time.
well, you're using Islamic logic. Islamic logic is to take
There's only
somebody
one
like
logic.
Abraham, who
Just do it in
who
front
is
of the
Jewish, never saw himself
Smack
as
the
anything
shit
else,
out of
and
you.
the Muslims will go, he was a Muslim. They will take Jesus, who saw himself as Jewish. Of course, Jesus foresaw Islam, but they'll go, Jesus was really a Muslim. Now, the reason
one
we would
job.
immediately recognize this as bogus reasoning is because you don't have the right to foist on people identities that you invented later and give them names and labels that belong to you as if you can somehow appropriate them out of their environment.
That's not
right.
why-
That's what you're doing.
That's not-
But
We've
that's what you're doing.
That's not why we would
I
find
hate
that
to do it,
fallacious.
gentlemen. We have to. This is the time when we do normally go into the Q&A.
Oh,
but
okay.
it has
Can we-
been
And they are so far into the weeds on this. This is just absurd.
an
Can we get a
amazing-
brief closing each?
Yeah, that works.
Okay.
How much would you guys like? 2 minutes? 3 minutes?
Just, 2 minutes. Fine.
Yeah, you go first.
Okay.
Yeah, you should close last. I agree.
Well, I went first in the beginning.
Don't stand them in front of the
Yeah,
camera.
no, I agree. You should go.
What
You should
the
have the last
fuck?
word.
Okay.
So, first and foremost, this was really fun, and
No
I
one
really
noticed.
appreciate
No one
you
noticed,
coming up
apparently.
here and tangling with me, Dinesh.
Lurch. Standing right in front of the camera.
And by the way, I never take any of this personally.
Might need to
We
punch
have
him
different
right in the
ideologies
neck.
that we're fighting for, slightly at least.
There he goes.
But we
Get
have
him.
a lot of overlap too, and for that I thank you.
Sound
It's
Jim
never
Cornette.
personal for me. With that said, I kicked your ass in this debate bad because you never established a single moral ought or reason why it is that Christians have an obligation to support Jews or Israel. In fact, I got a lot out of you here I was not expecting. You claim that Judaism is itself an evil ideology because it's in heresy.
Factual. Facts.
You also claim that Islam is an evil ideology as it's in heresy, which is exactly my position.
Facts too.
I believe those two things as well. And we both established another fact we can agree on, that ethnic Jews nor Arabs are evil because they're ethnic Jews or Arab. That's ridiculous on its face. So we can make this ideological distinction immediately. The problem that we have is that I think due to your bad theology, which I'm happy to tangle with you in a different debate on the theological aspects of this, it's led you down this road where you seem to believe, for some reason, there's this ambiguous moral reason why there's an ought or a must for why it is that we must support Judaism or we must support Israel, this secular state, which you agreed was a secular state, and you also agree, well, it also has religious Jews in it, and those religious Jews who are in it, they're following an evil ideology, and the secular state itself is part of an evil ideology because it's secular. We never got to the establishment of the ought. Now, I will give some credit to Dinesh. He had the harder position to defend. And usually that's me. So credit where it's due. It's a much harder position to defend that there is some moral obligation versus saying that there's not. So credit where credit's due. But honestly, my friend, you just never established one. And we tried and tried and tried and tried. Most of your analogies got turned back on you. Basically, every hypothetical you had got turned back on you, and your reasoning was shown to be completely fallacious. And with that, I'll end the debate, and I thank you very much for having it with me.
Thank you very much.
He was a kind and generous punching bag, but that's what he was. He was terrible in this debate. Let's see his closing. I bet he says he won. Oh, my God. That was great.
Ready for you.
As Christians, are we morally obligated to support the Crusades? Yes. As Christians, are we morally obligated to support the spread of the Roman Empire and the Roman legions who carried Christianity across Europe? Yes. Were the Roman legions good guys? No. Were the Crusaders always good guys? No. Were we morally obligated to support the Allies in World War II?
Did they commit a genocide? I don't remember reading about them committing any genocides. I've seen a genocide that's happening right now.
Yes. Were they all good guys? No. But they were on the right side of a terrible evil that was being unleashed in the world. Were we right to support Stalin against Hitler? Yes, because Hitler posed a greater threat at the time. Having supported Stalin against Hitler, were we right to have a Cold War against Stalin himself? Because he represented an embodiment of a different kind of evil in the Cold War? Yes. The world is no different today than it's ever been. There are lots of bad forces in the world, and there are some good forces that are trying to counter them. It's a very big world, and there are in it Buddhists, Confucians, Taoists, Jews, Muslims. The fact that they are not on board with us theologically is one thing. It says that we need to promote the Great Commission, we need to promote the gospel, we need to support missionary efforts throughout the world. I don't disagree with any of this. But this is being deployed in a kind of brutish fashion to somehow imply that Judaism is different than any. We make allies with countries all the time. We have common cause all the time that lasts for decades, sometimes centuries. We have special relationships with countries for good reason. We support, and we should support, South Korea against North Korea. That's why South Korea is a prosperous Western society. Now, maybe they allow a pride parade, but
why do I give a shit? Why do I give a shit? Why? These are just assertions of his preferences. That's all this debate is. It's just his preferences. Just do what I say. That's all this is.
They are nevertheless a much preferable moral alternative to North Korea.
30 seconds.
The Jews are basically the good people in a really bad neighborhood made up of really
that they chose to steal. So they chose that neighborhood to go take from other people. Just FYI, if we're talking historically.
bad people who wish us evil no less than them.
Because we keep siding with these people who just came and took a bunch of people's lands because God promised it to them somehow.
Right there is a link And this is not even considering the historical, the religious, the civilizational, the Athens and Jerusalem, the fact that our own heritage is inconceivable without the Old Testament, no less than the New. We are linked historically, morally, and it so happens to be that
Financially, if we listen to you, I guess.
there is a current serious threat, in some ways greater than threats we faced before.
10
And it's a
seconds.
threat faced not just by America, it's a threat faced by Christianity. Because the Islamic project is a religious project. It is the first totalitarian religious project in world history.
And-
We've had other totalitarianisms, but not based on religion. We're dealing with one. And what we've had, this whole debate, is a pretense that somehow there's no fundamental difference between the Islamic project and the Jewish project. And all of this nonsense about the fact that somehow Israel is just as
We're at-
evil arises out of that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dinesh.
But I never backed any of that up. I didn't give you any evidence of any of that shit. Nothing. Nothing I just asserted. I gave you no evidence that anything I say is true. Just believe me, because, I'm Dinesh D'Souza and I talk real pretty. Oh my God. How is this guy famous? How is this dude famous? This is insane. Like, you would think that, like, wow. You would think that the people, like, that are famous, they're really good at this. They should be really good at debates and such. And I've never seen him win one. I've done like 3 of his debates now. One of them I can't even air. I might be airing that soon. I got to get that out of here. But he just constantly asserts these things, and it's so easy to see through them. Like, how did he get famous as an intellectual? An intellectual who makes arguments like that. Like, that was just a beating he took from Andrew. Like, in debate terms, like, I don't know how anyone can see it any other way. We're gonna do a little bit of the Q&A while I look through to see if there's anything we can raid to, and maybe get y'all some other content for later. But let's just go ahead and check out the Q&A for now. I gotta go pee first, so be right back.
We're going to have a brief Q&A, and as people line up on the left side of this inside column, I want to give a final thank you to all of our sponsors, including Main First Project, Roar, Uncensored America, Apologetics Arc, and Yonaguni International Cuisine. Check them out in the description box. We are grateful for all of our sponsors who believe in fair debate. With that, we're going to start the Q&A. If you guys can move right over here, thanks so much, and we're ready for you. And then, folks, if you can do a favor, if you want to have a conversation, do us a favor, just do it in the hallway. That way people can hear people asking the questions and the speakers answering their questions. All right, here we go. Folks, need you to keep it down. Otherwise, it's okay to talk, but just go in the hallway and talk. Here we go.
All right, so my question's for Dinesh. Dinesh, the United States is $40 trillion in debt. Only 1 in 4 Gen Z adults own their own home. 69% of Gen Z reported living paycheck to paycheck in a 2025 survey. So my question to you is this. How much money am I, as a 22-year-old husband and father, obligated to give to Israel? Or if it's not that, if it's not a monetary obligation, do you just want, like, warm, fuzzy feelings towards the Jews in Israel?
May I ask you a question?
Get back over here. Hold on. Did it pause it? Yeah. What prevents Dinesh from just giving this money out? Like, what prevents him from just giving financially in himself? Like, why does America have to do it? Like, we could stop all our aid to them and just let all these Zionists give their money if that's really the point. Why is it incumbent upon us to give this money to these people that only the Zionists want us to give it to? That's the question. I really have a big question about it. No one ever even gets close to the answer for that. So,
What is
Can you answer mine first and then ask me the question?
Yeah, I'll answer yours. I'm asking you with a view to answering yours. What is the total amount of money that we give to other countries?
I don't think we should give any money to other countries.
I'm not asking you what we should do. How much is it that we do give?
Couldn't tell you.
You have no idea.
No, I don't know. I
Okay.
don't know the
How much do we give to
totality.
Israel?
About $3 billion a year. if
Okay.
I'm
Do you think
correct.
it's kind of interesting that you are super well informed on the $3 billion we give to Israel and
That's 'cause I
not
looked it
informed
up.
at all as to how much do we give to Egypt?
Well, you did say that in this debate, to be fair,
What?
That's also true.
that we gave $3 billion to Israel.
No, correct. But what I'm saying is, isn't it interesting when the
I
United
learned it from you,
States...
Dinesh.
What I'm saying is,
It's
You've
your
been learning
fault
them
that I
up.
know that.
the United States...
Egypt's not committing a genocide right now either, though. You know, that's kind of a big deal there. Like, we're giving them the money and the bombs to commit a genocide. Like, that's kind of my issue with this whole thing. Music on. Sorry about that. I didn't even think it was playing. Yeah, we're financing their genocide. Why do we need to do that? If Egypt starts committing a genocide, we can cut off all aid to them too. I don't think we should give money to any country. Get your own money, but I only get one vote.
Unfortunately, is a profligate country that both domestically and internationally throws and wastes giant amounts of money. I'm simply saying it is really interesting that you have a surgical eye toward the $3 billion we give to one country, and you don't even know, you can't even say approximately, what if we were giving, let's just say, for example, $300 trillion or $10 trillion to other countries and $3.8 billion to Israel. Wouldn't that be interesting that you have no objection to all?
Right, but we're not. We're not, though. We're just giving it to Israel. They get more than everybody. They get more even than the fucking third world countries that don't have running water. We give more money to this spoiled little country that's the size of New Jersey, you know, that gets UBI and gets like free college and gets, you know, paid health care. They get all kind of shit we don't get because we're financing their Wakanda. Right? Yeah.
All the others,
Goyim.
you don't even know anything about them, but you're really
This
well
is
informed on
entirely
this
a
one.
non sequitur. You didn't answer my question, and you went on
Well,
this
I'm
random
answering your
tangent
question.
about other countries, and I asked you
Israel-
specifically, how much am I obligated to give to Israel? How much?
You're not obligated to give a single penny, but you're not obligated. No, you're not obligated.
Cool. We're done.
Yeah, baby.
We're done.
No. We as a country have to make, hold on, we as
All
a
right,
country,
folks need you to keep it down in the back.
we as a country have to make a political calculation
We just found out we don't have to pay child support. Let us celebrate for a minute.
about what is the value of our alliance with Israel. Zero. Okay. Well, what is the value? You know, we have NATO. We have alliances with South Korea and Japan. What is the value of having an alliance with India and Korea and Japan to check the growing power of China? You might answer again, zero. And that will put you into a position where the United States, by and large, is just remains to itself and protects its own borders. And that's a defensible position. I'm not arguing against it. I'm simply saying that with Israel, we actually do get a lot for our money. With other countries, not only do we get nothing, we don't even ask. We don't even ask what we're getting.
Well, Dinesh, should Israel pay us to protect them?
Well, I mean, Israel, if the United States, does Israel buy our
sorry.
military equipment?
Just-
Yes, so they do
Dinesh,
pay us.
Well, I'm asking them,
just
should
so
they
they can hear
pay
you,
us?
Dinesh, just so they can hear you, your mic, if you can bring your mic back towards you.
Right
oh,
here,
the
this one.
second mic, though.
Yeah, sorry.
I'm asking you specifically, should Israel pay us to protect them?
Yes, and I think it does. Israel does pay us.
What? How much per year do they pay us?
Well, does Israel buy our military equipment? Yes
do we
or no?
buy?
That's part of the deal. It's free bombs to kill people with, to kill innocent people with. Just getting it.
theirs?
We buy theirs and they buy ours.
So that's a trade agreement. We actually send them cash. We send them money yearly. How much should they send to us for protecting them? I don't want to hear about, we trade with them. We trade with everybody. How much do you think they should pay us to protect them?
How much should the Europeans pay us to protect them?
A lot.
A lot.
And
how
Trump
much do they
demanded
pay?
that they pay more.
No, Trump is not even demanding that they pay us.
Do we put a dome over them? Do we finance a dome to protect them so they can pit fights with every one of their neighbors? Do we do that? I don't remember doing like some iron dome over Europe. I remember one over another country. Why do we do that? Why are we not being paid? We're the reason they can exist and they don't pay us anything. Nothing. We pay them. Make that make sense.
Trump is simply demanding that they pay.
It's like if Skeletor's henchmen had to pay him every month. That was their work agreement, right? The henchmen don't pay. The henchmen get paid.
More to their own defense. Trump
yes,
has not even
yes.
asked for $1
Because-
that the Europeans should pay us.
Yeah, but what's funny-
so why?
Yeah.
Look,
Then they should pay more for their own defense. But
Okay.
the thing is funny is like,
All right.
the European Union is not even a protectorate. They can defend themselves. Israel can't. They can't defend themselves without us. How much should our protectorates pay us? How much can we ask reasonably? Can we ask reasonably for fairness? Why not $500 a day per citizen of Israel?
I can give you a chance to respond, and then we got to go to the next question.
How much should Taiwan pay us for preventing an invasion by China?
They should pay for whatever the naval cost is of doing that.
Right. This is why you're not president, because billing the Taiwanese per citizen isn't really going to work. We don't have to defend Taiwan if we don't want to, but it is in our interest to do it, by the way. It is in our interest to protect South Korea. It is in our interest to prevent bad stuff from happening in Europe.
Why is it in our interest to prevent it from happening to Israel, though? Like, all those people that are doing that bad thing to them, don't they have a lot of oil? Like, couldn't we be partners with them instead of Israel? Wouldn't that be better for America to be partners with the guys that are going to actually give something to us instead of just leeching all of our blood and treasure or whatever? Like, wouldn't it be better to be allies with the people that actually are going to help us back instead of stealing our nuclear secrets and all the awful things that I've already mentioned like 5 or 6 times in this video? Like, how would it not be better to be allies with them who aren't leeches instead of this dependent, this child, as y'all called it, even it is child support basically.
That's why even Trump, even though he's not involved in the Ukraine war, is keeping an eye on it. We do have interest.
Well, I'd actually say this is why you shouldn't be president, because we can easily force these nations to pay a protection cost for us protecting their asses from invasion from their enemies.
Folks need you to keep it down.
Okay.
All right, just to get to the next question. And then, folks, do me a favor and just keep the...
I bet Iran would pay us just to take away the nukes. I bet you they'd pay for that. Yeah, and they have a lot of oil. We like oil. We like oil.
Or the background. Thank you.
All right, Dinesh, to get to the Bible, right, in Isaiah 63, verse 10, God turns his back on the Israelites because they disobeyed and broke the covenant. Hosea chapter 1, verse 9, they did the same thing, and he said to them, you are not my people, I'm not your God. And then...
This dude doesn't understand, though. They're the chosen people, so rules don't apply to them, right? We're seeing this all through history.
Christ himself, when he was brought before Pontius Pilate, the Jews said, we crucify him, something like that, and they accepted the curse. So why should Christians be morally obligated to support the ideologies that put God on a cross?
Okay. I'm going to read you from Paul's letter to the Romans.
I like that one.
This is 11, 28, 29. I'm reading verbatim. This is Paul talking about the Jews. Hold on. He's talking about the Jews. He's talking about the Jews. Concerning the gospel,
So you say?
they are enemies for your sake. But concerning the election, they are beloved for the sake of the fathers, for the gifts and the calling of God are irrevocable. End quote. The meaning of this is that God never permanently turns his back on the Jews. God never revokes his promises. You will not find a single passage in the Old Testament or the New which says God, whatever God gave to Abraham, God took it all back. Okay. Even though there are groypers who talk about that now, we should go occupy Israel. It really belongs to the Christians because Jesus was a Christian. The truth of it is that the salvation, Jesus, out of Jesus' own mouth, salvation is from the Jews. I mean, this passage must really... I talked about some suppositories, right? Here's one from Jesus himself. Yes. Salvation is from the Jews, and the rest of us have the opportunity to be grafted in. In other words, there's no salvation without the Jews. Now, is anything that Andrew said today even remotely consistent with that? No.
You know that same chapter you brought up, Paul actually says the people of the old covenant were the ones getting crafted out. And then we, the Gentiles, are the ones being put in.
11, 22, and 27.
There we go.
It reaffirms the fact that the wild branches grafted can be cut off.
Oh, no.
There you go.
All right, we'll jump to the next.
Yeah.
So, yes, Andrew did say things that remotely support that. Yes.
No, he didn't.
Yes, it did.
He paraphrased something that he's interpreting in his own way.
I know. Who interprets the Bible? You? You're the ultimate authority.
Well, no, I mean, I read it for you to interpret for yourself.
Well, and I just did.
It speaks for itself.
I just did, and I interpreted it differently.
Ready, Jonathan?
Funnily, I was actually going to do the same scripture, but I think it's really we need to protect the Jews because God is going to say, hey, when the full number of Gentiles come, then the Jews have to be saved, and then the end will come. That's really what I would go with. And I actually have a great idea for your next debate. should Israel become a basically like a protectorate, like what's the word?
A vassal state?
Yeah, well, not like a vassal state, but more like how Puerto Rico is a territory of the United States.
Are you asking me?
Would you like to do that as like
No,
a future?
Listen, what I think is this, is that I agree with a lot of what Dinesh says when he's talking about the rights of nations, especially when he's talking about conquest. I just think that you're not in a position to borrow.
Hey, conservatives, if we did make them a country, if we made them a territory and gave them the right to vote in our elections, hey, which way do you think they would vote, conservatives? Do you think they would vote for the conservatives, or do you think they would vote for the liberals? Just curious. How is their government over there being ran? Is it being ran real liberal or real conservative? Just thought I'd throw it out there.
Bargain if you're a protectorate.
Right.
The Holy Land does not just belong to Jews. An Orthodox church sits on the tomb of Jesus. Why is it that we don't continuously allow, Dinesh, for Christians to immigrate to Israel and make that demand that they allow it? Because there would be tens of thousands who would. And it's not like they're in a position to bargain. Why do we need to leave it a Jewish state? Exactly. Why is it necessary?
Well, first of all, we do live in a world of
I can't name a Christian state, so why can't they have one and we can't? Why you get that? There's less of y'all, so there should definitely be one of us.
sovereignty where a lot of what you've been talking about, we need to seal our borders. America has every right to decide who comes in. But then when it comes to Israel, somehow they don't have that right. They can't decide who gets
It's not
to
a
go to
right.
Israel.
Hang on. It's not a right. A right is what you can enforce.
This whole
A right is what you
protectorate.
can enforce, and they have no choice. We do. We're the United States. We can tell you can't come in here, fucker. But if we couldn't, what do you say? Conquest. It's conquest. If you're a protectorate, you don't have rights except the rights that you are given by those who protect you, and that's that.
Been saying this for months too. Let's invade them. Let's take that land. I'm on board with that war because I think we've been fighting on the wrong side for quite a while.
All right, so you have a holy land. By the way, the holy land is not just Israel, right? There are holy sites in Jordan. There are holy sites all over the region. The Muslims maintain iron control over the holy sites in their countries. Christians have no rights. If you've been to any of the holy sites in Israel, as I have, the Church of the Holy Sepulchre is thronging with Syrian nuns and nuns from India and priests from Africa. It's open. All faiths can come there. There's no restriction. So the argument that we should use military force,
I didn't say military force.
or we should strong arm Israel, that we need 100,000 Christians to go over there to keep an eye on the holy sites. This is an invented solution to a non-problem.
Well, wait,
and it
every
is done with just
solution-
malicious intent.
Every
because you would
solution
never
is-
say that of any other
Yes, I
country.
would.
No,
I would
you
say
wouldn't.
the same thing. Any protectorate that we have, where we allow immigration to us, we should demand that they allow immigration there.
Same
period.
fucking do.
Okay, so
Period,
what,
Dinesh.
what should we do?
And then we got to go to the
Okay,
next one.
let's keep moving.
Brady.
Dinesh, if I decided to convert to Judaism tomorrow, do I have the right to move to Israel and kick out a Christian family from their home, live in it? And if the answer is no, what percentage of my DNA being ethnically Jewish would make this morally justified?
Ooh.
Let's go through it slowly, because there are like 4
Let's do
steps
that.
in there.
Let's do
If
that.
you have a right to convert to Judaism, which you do, yeah, and
Right
then
to
you
rule.
would have a right
Right to
to
rule.
emigrate to Israel. If Israel takes Jews from all over the world, it follows. The rest of it doesn't follow. So I don't think that you have some right to go kick someone out of their home. I don't agree that you would have the right to displace a Christian family. So no, you would have the right to move to Israel. You could go buy an apartment.
But we don't have the right to stop funding the people that are doing that right now, actively as we're talking. As we're talking in Lebanon, they're doing that. We have to keep paying them. Huh.
In Hatzor or wherever you want, and live there.
But what about a nation's sovereignty, man? Like, couldn't they just say, hey, you can kick out this Christian and you'd be fine with that because they're sovereign and stuff, right?
Well, what I'm saying is that Israel is a democracy. They can make laws within their country, just like we can make laws in ours. I haven't heard you propose that we go take Jordan by force, even though there are holy sites in Jordan. There are holy sites all over the region, by the way. You have abstained from calling for any kind
Iran's not allowed to do that, though. They're not allowed to. Only Israel's allowed to do that, right? We got to go bomb them whenever they enhance to levels that both the countries that are attacking them have enhanced beyond. So it's like basically a hypocrite war.
Kind of strong arming of any Muslim country. Why? Because you know that that's stupid and we're not going to do it and it's not even on the table.
Yeah, I don't.
But somehow when it comes to Israel, it's like, okay, because...
Yes, I don't think Christians want to immigrate to inbred Muslim nations. That big brain
we gotta
Dinesh
jump.
over
Okay,
here.
and why-
Right.
okay.
I do think
Sorry
that
to
they
do
would
that.
want to immigrate to Israel, the site
Just
of
to try to-
Jesus Christ, yes.
Try to get more.
Yes, this one's for you, Andrew. This was good, but at the same time, I was left a little disappointed, not from you, but because you weren't able to actually argue the ought. And so my question to you, Andrew, is if you came with any idea of if he actually would have an ought. Obviously, that's not your responsibility. But what would your defense
in
be?
my opening statement, I predicted that Dinesh would not actually have an ought for this. Now, to be perfectly fair, and I'm going to be fair to my opponent, right? It was a spirited debate. I get all that. It is the harder position. It is literally the harder position. And usually you guys are just used to me taking the harder position. But for once, he had to defend a position. I thought it was important that he did. But I did not think he would have an ought, no, because I don't think it's easy to make one for this.
All right, so let me say a word about this. Somehow there is a distinction between an is and an ought. And there's a certain
guillotine.
naive view that an is and an ought are unconnected. That somehow if you say an is, no ought follows from the is. This is
It doesn't.
It doesn't.
It's called Hume's guillotine. It
Yeah,
literally
exactly.
doesn't.
And Hume is not only out of step with the mainstream of philosophy, it would.
Hold on, I do.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Want to let Dinesh finish? Want to let Dinesh finish?
I'm very familiar with Hume. Don't
That
get me
door- hang
wrong.
on, that door is gray. That implies what ought?
Okay.
That door
okay.
is gray.
Okay.
What implies
okay.
what ought?
All right. I am an author. I ought to write some books. I just gave you an is that implies an ought.
We're going to,
I am an author. That's an is. I ought to write some books. He is a doctor. He ought to cure people.
We're going to jump to
This
one.
is a
This is the
keyboard.
last question.
This is the keyboard.
What's the ought?
Okay. It ought to be used for computing.
This is the last question.
I just gave it to you, and because you're stumped, the best thing that you
I'm
can do is to
fucking stumped,
guffaw,
all right.
because you think that in classical Christian philosophy,
He's not getting it. It doesn't imply it though. Just because it is a computer, what if that computer is being used for sex crimes? So ought it still be to be used? It doesn't imply anything. It just implies it's just two statements, and they're totally independent of each other. Why would it imply that?
every ought.
All right, folks, need you to keep it down.
Jesus died for our sins. We ought to worship him. Is and ought is more closely connected than Hume conceded. Hume wanted to attack morality. And his way of attacking morality is to put all of morality in the ought column, and therefore to say that no ought can come out of an is. You think Aristotle would have agreed with that?
You just
no.
said, well, first of
No.
all, these are two different philosophies, but you just said, I said this is a keyboard, and you said you ought to use it.
It ought to be used for-
great. Hang on. All I'm asking, I'm just going to ask a simple question. How do we get to the I ought to use it? Because I described that it is that thing.
Yeah.
Well, the ought is teleologically derived from the thing that it is. I mean, a lot of the
you?
argument, a lot
Why
of the,
can't
hold
I
on.
just use it as a
A lot-
paperweight?
Okay,
gotta
a
wrap
lot of
The keyboard really wants to type some shit. Is that the argument here? I don't think that the keyboards have a Talios. Do they have one of those? Wasn't aware.
the
Was not
classical
aware.
argument against homosexuality is that
Telos.
you have a rear end. It ought to be used for the purpose of excretion and not to stick large objects in it.
Weird that your mind went there, little fella. Weird that your mind went there.
Right? There is an ought coming out of an is. There you go.
That does.
He had a massage that makes him feel funny now. That's what happened. That's why that went to his mind. That funny massage.
It's not defer an
right,
ought from
we
an
do-
is.
Women are constructed in a certain way.
We do.
Hold on. Women are built in a certain way. That is the is. Right? Women ought to live a certain way and derive certain social roles and responsibilities which arises out of their nature. I've just given you an ought that comes out of it.
Right. You just proved you're wrong because women are not doing that thing, right? They ought to reproduce and they're not. They're not. So you just proved your own case. I mean, you just disproved your own case. Like, they're not doing their thing. The only thing we can get them to do, the only thing they have to do, and they're not. So wrong.
Hang on, Dinesh. I just want to, real
Dinesh.
quick, it'll take me
Okay.
1 second.
Yeah, let's
I
let's
walk
pursue
into a
it.
room and there's a woman on the bed, spread eagle. I ought to fuck her, right?
Well, that one's actually yes. Yes, you ought to.
Is that what I said?
Not really good odds. She's going to make you a sandwich. So what else is she good for?
No, that's what I'm asking.
No.
Why not? The telos, man. My penis goes there, bro.
Fair point. He's either got to do it or he's got to pee on her. Like the telos. That's his only two. That's the only two functions, really.
Wow.
We're gonna wrap up.
probably
I do
pee on
want
her.
to. I want to give you a chance if you would like to respond to Nash. Otherwise, we'll go
Wow.
to. We're gonna do.
Okay.
Do want to ask each of you if you can share for those viewing online where people can find you online, as we've got both of our guest links in the description, folks. But do want to share or want to hear where you can.
I
share.
do a weekly show called Dinesh. It's on X and YouTube and Rumble. I'm publishing a book on biblical archaeology in October. It's called The Stones Cry Out. And it is about the massive findings in biblical archaeology, Old and New Testament both, that support and authenticate the historicity of the Bible and support the foundations of Western civilization.
Thank you so much.
Was it written in crayon? Like, this dude does not strike me as an intellectual they keep talking about. None of his arguments made any sense. So I guess you just have to have like a wordy way of talking to be considered an intellectual. You just have to be articulate. If you're articulate, you're an intellectual. Even though you're a dumbass, you're a dummy, makes arguments like that and can't even understand what he's there to do. Like, he never even addressed the entire subject of this debate. How crazy is that?
My name is Andrew Wilson. I am the
winner.
host of The Crucible. I do everything from political commentary, news coverage. I do debates all the time. Home of the TikTok invasion, where we make lunatics seethe. It's my favorite
They're
thing
funny.
on planet Earth. And that's where you can find me on The Crucible on YouTube and Rumble. Not one step back.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Please join me in giving a round of applause.
Flawless victory. That was definitely a flawless victory. Is that playing? I can't hear it. Y'all hear that? There we go. There we go. Oh. Thought maybe I did have a stroke. I do smell burning. And who knows? This debate kind of reminds me of the movie They Live. I saw that recently again because it popped up on YouTube. It just reminds me so much of the scene where like Roddy Piper is like he's arguing with the guy that's in charge of the media or whatever, like the media executive, and they're just like, yeah, but they're gonna let us have really good lives, and that's just what it's like. These simps, they want to bend over front ways for Israel, and it just feels like Uncle Tom. Like, it feels like they're Uncle Toms. Like, I thought whenever I saw that movie, I thought this dude is an Uncle Tom to humans, and that's kind of how I feel. Like, you're Uncle Toms to America, basically. That's just kind of the thing that rings in my head whenever I watch these debates with these Zionists. Like, you can't defend it, and you can't understand that is evidence that is brainwashing. Why else can't you defend this? You should be able to defend every argument you have in your head. If you can't, the cognitive dissonance should make you stop saying this silliness. But for some of these people, it's lucrative enough for them to fight that off and just go get that paycheck. Go get destroyed for a paycheck. I would change my mentality. My worldview would change if I couldn't argue the validity of it. But these guys, no. Hasbara paid too good. You're not going to change that. But we're going to get out of here. It's a shorter one today. We're only 3 hours today, so I guess that's shorter. But I will be back on Monday. Look for Monday's show. Not sure what I'm doing yet. May even come on the weekend one night just to have some fun. And if you're here still, please subscribe, especially on Rumble. You guys, I get more viewers every day on Rumble since I've been shadow banned. So if you're still here and you're on Rumble especially, please subscribe. YouTube too. I got to get subscribed or I won't be here much longer. So if you enjoy the content, subscribe, and I'll never sell you nothing. So look forward to that. Peace. See y'all Monday.